Chapter 4:24. The city's sin is unforgivable. Seeing this scene, Zhao Lei's heart tightened and his fingers clenched unconsciously. Now that the identity of the sinner's descendant has been determined, Zhao Lei, do you still want to protect her? You must know that among the murders committed by Gunan back then, there were also people from your heavenly sword holy land. Song Lingfeng sneered and looked straight at Zhao Lei. Are you doing this right for your holy land? At this moment, even the other people from Tongtian sword holy land didn't say anything more, but just looked at Gu Mingling with a slightly complicated expression. Oh, when Song Lingfeng saw it, he smiled coldly. Is this the so-called Holy Land? Nothing more than this. Seeing Zhao Lei in trouble, Gu Mingling sighed softly. The other party had raised him, and she didn't want to see him like this. Let me go, Holy Lord. Gu Mingling said softly, looking at the middle-aged man in front of her who looked like her father, her eyes full of heartache. Zhao Lei stood in front of him, his eyes red, and said in a trembling voice, You can't go. Gu Mingling used the spiritual energy that she had just recovered to flash and avoid the opponent's obstruction. Then, she slowly drew out the black sword, walked forward resolutely, and opened her red lips slightly, as if saying her final goodbye to the person behind her. You know my temper best. You can't stop me. This is all my own choice. Upon hearing this, Zhao Lei closed his eyes and his body trembled. He swore that no matter what, he would avenge Gu Mingling in this life. When Mo Han saw her finally coming over, he looked proud and smiled like a winner. I'm asking you one last time. Do you ever regret breaking off the engagement with me? He expected that at this point, the other party must have regretted it this time. I said, I have never regretted it from beginning to end. Gu Mingling shook her head and said calmly. There was no sadness or joy in her beautiful eyes, only determination. After he finished speaking, the smile on Mo Han's lips suddenly froze. He was a little bit incredulous, and then gradually put away his smile, with cold, murderous intent in his eyes. Originally, if the other party regretted it, he would be willing to give her a chance to be his slave. But the answer is this. In that case, don't blame yourself for being ruthless. You still dare to be so stubborn. Let's see who can protect you today. Mo Han took action, and a pair of wings of sky rock grew behind him. He flapped his wings and flew up into the air. In his hand, he held a golden true feather that emitted a magical light. The true feather instantly grew into a 10-foot giant sword, and a terrifying sword aura instantly gushed out. When everyone in the heavenly sword holy land felt it, their expressions suddenly changed. What kind of move is this that has such sword power that it makes these sword practitioners shudder? Behead him! Mo Han shouted coldly, his eyes gleaming with gold. As soon as he finished speaking, the golden sword light slashed downwards, and as the sword energy rippled, a strange image of a sky rock appeared, with its wings spread out as if tearing the void. In this move, he used all his strength and used all the Tianpeng true feathers in his trump card. Even if someone at the peak of the powerful realm is here, he can kill him on the spot. When Gu Mingling saw this, she felt despair. Knowing that she had no strength to fight, she closed her eyes and faced death calmly. Everyone in the heavenly sword holy land also turned their heads, unwilling to witness the cruel scene. After all, they were once from the same sect. Zhao Lei wanted to take action, but was stared at closely by the three saints. However, just as the light fell, a cold voice suddenly sounded. I'll protect it. His tone was decisive, like thunderclap out of nowhere, echoing throughout the world. Gu Mingling opened her eyes, and her mind went blank after seeing the scene before her. The young man who looked like a banished immortal stood in front of her. He simply stretched out his hand, and with his two straight and slender fingers, he clamped the terrifying giant sword, steady as a rock. The next moment, a loud shattering sound was heard. The 10-foot-long giant sword transformed from the true feathers of the sky, Peng, was shattered into pieces by the young man's two fingers, and cracks spread upwards from the sword. Soon, the Tianzhong giant sword disappeared from the spot. The pupils of everyone present suddenly shrank. At this moment, the whole world was quiet, as if time and space had stopped. After a brief respite, a sharp and piercing voice suddenly rang out, breaking the silence. It's you. Mo Han widened his eyes, full of disbelief. He never expected that when Gu Mingling was about to die, the other party would actually take action. The people of the heavenly sword holy land were instantly excited after seeing that face clearly. It's the one with double pupils. The one with double pupils has taken action. This sudden change instantly interrupted the thoughts of the three saints. They stood in the void, squinting their eyes, looking at the young man in the snow-covered clothes who suddenly appeared. He was quite capable, and his moves were so fast that even they could not react. Soon, their expressions became strange. Hiss! They couldn't even see through the other party's ethereal aura. On the other side, Zhao Lei was also in trance. He gradually saw the figure clearly, and his eyes widened instantly. It was actually him. He thought he had mistaken the person, and took a special look at the position on the purple gold chair above. Sure enough, there was no human figure anywhere. Even Zhu Ying disappeared. "Who are you?" Song Lingfeng spoke, his eyes full of fear, not daring to act rashly. "I just felt that the other person looked more and more familiar, as if I'd seen him somewhere before." In the square, Nangong Chen was shrouded in immortal light, his snow-white clothes spotless, his expression indifferent, like a true immortal born from the mortal world. Behind him, a golden light flowed, and the girl in the black and gold phoenix tail skirt came late. Nangong Chen ignored them and turned around, took out a holy medicine emitting mist, and handed it to Gu Mengling. "Swallow it." An unquestionable tone sounded. Gu Mengling stood there in a daze, staring blankly at the holy medicine in her hand, unable to react for a moment. After waiting for a while, she hurriedly shook her head towards Nangong Chen, indicating that she didn't want it. But Nangong Chen didn't care and gave Zhu Ying a look. Zhu Ying understood instantly and forced the holy medicine into Gu Mengling's mouth. Accompanied by the whimpers of resistance, Nangong Chen slowly turned his head, the murderous intent in his eyes no longer concealed. "How dare you kill someone from the Divine Dynasty?" The Divine Dynasty? Song Lingfeng and the other two saints were stunned on the spot. The next moment, Tianyuan, the ancestor of the Chen family, seemed to remember something, slapped his head, and said in horror, "Are you the one with double pupils?" Song Lingfeng and Jin Heng, the ancestor of the Jin family, were stunned for a moment, and their faces became more and more shocked. No one of the other party looked so familiar. It turned out that I had seen him in the Xinzong projection some time ago. "Why are you here?" Song Lingfeng gritted his teeth and asked in confusion. He couldn't imagine that at this last moment, such a person could appear. Some time ago, the news that the other party won the Monghuang Championship spread throughout the entire Xintian domain, and even they knew it. 3 seniors quickly kill him. At this moment, Mo Han spoke hurriedly and looked at the 3 people. He always had a bad feeling. "Shut up." Song Lingfeng was rarely angry and shouted angrily. He was also a smart man and guessed a lot at once. The Tianyuan Divine Dynasty probably had a close relationship with the Tianyuan Academy. That's why the other party was so protective of Gu Mengling. Some time ago, it was reported that the other party was followed by Saint King, who was far beyond their reach. Then he smiled awkwardly and said, "My friend, it's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding." Chen Yuan and Jin Heng also quickly smiled and gave in. On the other side, Mo Han was of course confused. He never expected that Song Lingfeng, who had always been gentle to him, would yell at him, and because of an outsider, everyone watching the scene was shocked. Those people from Lingguang City who were so arrogant just now turned out to be so docile after seeing the person with double pupils. Misunderstanding? Gunnan once gave me the opportunity to take good care of his daughter, but you tried to kill her in front of me. What do you think my reputation is? Nangong Chen sneered, his pupils dim. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's faces changed instantly. No one had expected that there was such a relationship between the man with double pupils and Gunan. Song Lingfeng's face suddenly turned cold. He didn't expect that the other party would not give him any face at all. He said in a deep voice, "That Gunan once slaughtered the strong men of my Lingguang City. I did this for revenge. Why can he kill us, but we can't kill his children? This world is a world where the strong prey on the weak." Chen Yuan and Jin Heng on the side also nodded in agreement. The next moment, a voice sounded in Nangong Chen's mind. His eyes lit up, the corners of his mouth raised, and he said calmly, "You are right. The law of the jungle is the law of the world. Gu Nen is indeed wrong." When these words were spoken, everyone present looked a little surprised. Isn't the person with double pupils on Gu Mengling's side? Besides, he also took Gu Nan's opportunity. Is this a mistake? After hearing this, Gu Mengling, who was not far away, became a little stiff in expression and her beautiful eyes dimmed. Right? Song Lingfeng and the other two breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Nangong Chen with more kindness. They didn't expect that the other party was so reasonable. It seems that today we can resolve the issue. But before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Nangong Chen. Gunnan was wrong for not slaughtering all of Yulingwang city bandits, but fortunately, I did it for him. Nangong Chen changed the subject and spoke in a cold voice, a cold light flashing across his double pupils. Back then, he knew that Gunan and the Lord of Lingguang City were allies, but who would have thought that when Tianyuan Academy was surrounded by everyone, the first person to stab them in the back was Lingguang City. When the top leaders of Tianyuan Academy went out to fight, Lingguang City slaughtered all of the more than 13,000 talented students of that class, directly cutting off the hope of the next generation of Tianyuan Academy. This was the main reason why Tianyuan Academy declined at that time. Its foundation was destroyed, and there was no hope. Afterwards, Gunan was furious and only led his men to slaughter all the high-ranking officials in Ningguang City. He did not even attack the elderly, children, women, and children, leaving a spar for the other side. But even so, several years later, the people of Ningguang City actually wanted to kill Gunan's daughter. It is conceivable that the city's sins are unforgivable. What did you say? Song Lingfeng's face was a little stiff, as if he had heard it wrong. Chapter 425, Slaughter of Ningguang City. Mo Han becomes enemy. At this moment, not only Song Lingfeng, but also Chen Yuan and Jin Heng had a look of surprise on their faces. The other party said that Ningguang City was massacred. On the other side, Gu Mingling was stunned after hearing this, and then she silently repeated what Nangong Chen said in her heart, and her dim eyes suddenly lit up. A pitch-black crack suddenly appeared in the sky, and a figure with a Shura face stepped out from it. Just by standing there, boundless pressure spread out, and the eyes above the mask flashed with astonishing coldness. The pupils of everyone present suddenly shrank. Even the three ancestors of Ningguang City were no exception, staring blankly at the black figure. They felt that to be able to exert such pressure, this person must be one of the strongest in Xintian realm. Soon, the people in the heavenly sword Holy Land seemed to remember something and suddenly cried out in surprise. He is the Shura of the Tianyuan divine dynasty. After hearing this, the panic in everyone's eyes did not diminish, and they became more nervous. This is a living saint king, the most terrifying existence in this world. It would be a lie to say that I am not afraid of him. Even the strong ones present couldn't help but tremble at this moment, their eyes full of fear. Soon, everyone discovered that the Shura seemed to be holding a bloody human figure in his hand. Who allowed you to stand and talk to the prince? A cold voice exploded from the void, like the roar of thunder, echoing in the ears of everyone in Ningguang City. The next moment, Song Lingfeng and the other two fell to their knees with a thud under the terrifying pressure. The 10 silver-armored soldiers behind him were not spared either. Their legs seemed to be broken by the huge force, their faces turned extremely red, and they were almost suffocated. And the direction they were kneeling in, without exception, was towards Nangong Chen. In the square, Mo Han stared at the scene in a daze, his eyes full of horror, and his body couldn't help but tremble. It's over. Today is completely over. He could see that this person must be the strong man behind that boy. What he didn't expect was that the three ancestors he brought with him would kneel down in front of the other party, without any power to resist. Shura was very angry. He didn't expect to see such a heinous scene just after returning from destroying a city. Meet the prince. After everything was done, Shura turned around, took a deep breath, and saluted Nangong Chen. Not bad. I brought back a living person. Nangong Chen waved his hand and looked at the person in his hand with a hint of admiration. Then, he gave an order calmly. Come, show them. Yes, Shura said respectfully and threw the bloody figure to the ground. Zhao, a painful wail suddenly sounded. Song Lingfeng, kneeling on the ground, looked at the blurry figure with bloodshot eyes. He suddenly saw clearly that it was not someone. It was his own son, and he was also the mayor of Ningguang City. When Chen Yuan and Jin Heng saw this scene, their minds went blank, and a thought of disbelief slowly arose in their minds. Could it be that? As for the people from the heavenly sword Holy Land who were watching from all directions, they narrowed their eyes and felt that the figure looked more and more familiar. Soon, some sharp-eyed people exclaimed in surprise and couldn't believe it. This person is actually the lord of Ningguang City, Song Zhao. After he finished speaking, silence fell all around. Even Zhao Lei, who was used to seeing all kinds of situations, fell silent, his pupils shrinking slightly. Gu Mingling even opened her red lips slightly, her beautiful eyes full of disbelief. No one expected that the figure that looked like a dead dog was actually the mayor of Ningguang City. When had they ever seen the other party in such a miserable state? He was beaten to the ground and was almost dead. At the same time, an even more terrifying thought emerged in their minds. If the mayor of Ningguang City is like this, then what about Ningguang City? Before he could think about it, a weak voice came from Song Zhao's mouth. Dad, Ningguang City, Ningguang City. Upon hearing this, Song Lingfeng staggered over, his body trembling. Ningguang City, what happened to Ningguang City? Destroyed. Song Zhao coughed up a mouthful of blood and said these words with difficulty before he lost his life and died on the spot. When Song Lingfeng heard this, his eyes turned red and his face was full of disbelief. Impossible, impossible. Chen Yuan and Jin Heng, who were standing around him, were also in a state of dismay, with deep despair in their eyes, muttering to themselves. They just came out for once. and the city behind them was destroyed quietly like that? At this moment, not only them, but everyone in the heavenly sword Holy Land was looking at the scene in front of them with shock. Ningguang City, was it really destroyed? Even though they still couldn't believe it in their hearts, the naked body of the Lord of Ningguang City was lying there, and they had to believe it even if they didn't want to. In a trance, they felt a little dreamy, surprised and scared. What surprised them was that Ningguang City, which was a powerful enemy in their eyes and had harassed them for many years, was now easily resolved. What they fear is the terrifying force behind the man with double pupils. Just a word from the other party can decide the life or death of a top force. This feeling made them feel cold, as if they were between life and death, and were under the control of the other party. Zhao Lei took a complicated look at Gu Mengling. He knew that the person who could make the one with double pupils make such a decision must be the other party. He couldn't imagine how much benefit the man with double pupils had received from Gunan. At the same time, he was also glad that he had adopted such a daughter. A powerful enemy who had given them headaches for thousands of years died in such an unclear way. Not far away, Gu Mengling blinked her beautiful eyes, as if everything in front of her was extremely unreal, and she stared at the figure in the snow-covered clothes in a daze. Everything that happened today was because of the other party's arrival. Why? Do you want to kill them? Song Lingfeng pounded the ground weakly, his eyes filled with resentment and hatred as he looked at the young man in front of him. Why? This world is a world where the strong prey on the weak. Senior, isn't that what you taught me? Nangong Chen sneered and yawned, his expression full of indifference. Didn't Gunan give them a chance back then? Obviously, I gave it to him, but human nature is so mean. Since they have made the same mistake again, don't blame him for being cruel and ruthless. He is not like Gu Nan who will leave them with hope. After he finished speaking, Song Lingfeng finally figured everything out. The corners of his mouth were extremely bitter, and he felt very regretful in his heart. From the moment they took action today, they had already lost everything. After all, they failed to understand the lessons their ancestors taught them with blood and tears. Then, Song Lingfeng looked at Mohan, his eyes filled with coldness, and even a hint of murderous intent bursting out. If it weren't for this little bastard, how could their Ningguang City have ended up like this? He was also confused. He believed him, and now he has lost everything. And Mohan, who was not far away, had not yet recovered from the fall when 5 strong, old fingers instantly grabbed his neck. When Mohan saw the person in front of him clearly, his pupil shrank, and he quickly said, "Senior Song, it's me, Mohan." He never imagined that the ancestor of the Song family, who once said he would support him, would now kill him. "I'm going to kill you, little bastard." Song Lingfeng gritted his teeth, furious, and used both hands to strangle him to death. "If it weren't for you, how can my Ningguang City be destroyed? You must drag me and others to die with you to satisfy yourself." And Mohan's face flushed red, and he became angry after hearing that. What does it have to do with him if the man with double pupils kills them? He is also a victim. You old bastard, you've lost your mind. I shouldn't have saved you in the first place. If you 3 were as strong as them, why would you be in this state today? And Mohan stopped acting and started cursing. Chapter 426, I Give You Fairness. Nangong Chen watched them tearing each other apart quietly, his eyes full of amusement. I didn't expect that I would see a wonderful dog-eat-dog fight when I came to the Heavenly Sword Holy Land today. It's really wonderful. If it didn't damage their image, he would have wanted to applaud them to cheer them on. At this moment, everyone looked at this scene with disbelief in their eyes. No one expected that the other party who came here angrily today would develop into such an internal conflict. However, all this is because of one person, the one with double pupils. Everyone in the Heavenly Sword Holy Land felt a chill involuntarily as they looked at the figure in white clothes as white as snow. They dare not think about what would happen to them if they became the enemy of the other party. I'm afraid it's not any worse than those people. Thinking of this, they secretly swallowed their saliva and decided not to provoke each other in the future. Nangong Chen saw that Mohan's face had turned blue and he looked like he was about to collapse, so he said calmly, "Leave that kid alive and kill the others." Like to pretend? Then he can't die so easily, otherwise he will get away with it. Yes. After saying this, Shura gave a respectful sound, and then a dagger appeared in his hand. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and he walked towards those people. Soon, the knife fell, and the painful wails stopped abruptly. Today, all the people in Ningguang City were killed. And Mohan watched the whole thing. His pupils shrank slightly, and he was filled with horror. Seeing the other party killing the last person and walking towards him, Mohan felt wet under his body and was hit by a foul stench. "Don't kill me, don't kill me." Mohan kept backing away, his eyes full of fear. At this moment, he was just like the tribesmen he slaughtered that day. Although they begged for mercy, they could not escape his clutches. Just when he thought he was about to die, who would have thought that Shura just passed by, glanced at him, a hint of disgust flashed across his face, and then left. Emohan's mind went blank and his face was dazed. You didn't kill me? Could it be that the other party felt it would be a pity for me to die, so he spared my life and wanted me to stay and serve him? As expected, he said, how could a destined protagonist like him die like this? Even a gifted person like him would be impressed by my charm and want to recruit me. Thinking of this, Emohan couldn't help but rejoice secretly with a smile on his face. Then he slowly stood up and walked towards Nangong Chen. He looked at Nangong Chen and saw him smile, which made him feel more confident. You really want me to serve you? Ha ha, looks like I'm not destined to die. But the other party just humiliated me so much, and he wants to subdue me easily? He is just dreaming. I'm going to make things very difficult for you later. You'd better kneel down and kowtow to me, otherwise, don't even think about working for me. Of course, he couldn't humiliate her too much. At most, he could ask her to apologize and kowtow to him, and give him the secret manual of the cultivation technique for him to observe. Oh, and he also had to make Gu-mingling his slave girl. Otherwise, if any of these three conditions were missing, he would never agree to the other party. If he was made angry, he would humiliate the other party in public. Who asked the other party to ask something of you? At this moment, when Emohan thought about what was going to happen, he couldn't suppress the smile on his face and even walked arrogantly. After seeing this scene, the people present were filled with question marks. What is Emohan doing? Is he going to poop a big shit for them before he dies? Soon, Emohan walked up to Nangong Chen with an arrogant look and snorted coldly, which was full of dissatisfaction. Nangong Chen didn't react at all, just looked at him quietly, even wanting to laugh. When Emohan saw this, he thought the other party was playing hard to get with him, so he coughed lightly and said, Is this your attitude when you asked me to join your team? I'm so disappointed. After saying this, he pretended to turn around and wanted to leave. But soon, as he took a few more steps, he suddenly realized that the other party seemed to have not caught up with him. He quickly turned around and saw that everyone present seemed to be staring at him while trying hard to suppress their smiles, which made him furious. What are you laughing at? Once I become your subordinate, I will teach you a lesson. Emohan quickly turned his head and looked at Nangong Chen, wanting to see what the other party was doing. I saw that the other person was still looking at me coldly, with such a condescending look and becoming more and more sarcastic, as if looking at a clown. Is the other party angry? Emohan was startled at the thought. He quickly stepped forward and frowned. Is it so difficult for you to just kneel down and apologize? Do you really need me to come over and hint at you? However, before he could finish his words, the man in snow-white robe waved his sleeves. The next moment, Emohan felt a huge force hitting his face. He vomited blood, his internal organs were shaking, and he flew backwards dozens of meters and smashed deeply into the stone wall. Seeing this scene, there were only two words in everyone's mind: relieved. No one expected that Emohan would be so arrogant, and even want the pupil-trained man to kneel down to him. I would never do this in my dreams. You dare to hit me? A burst of smoke dissipated, and a weak and angry voice sounded from the deep pit. Emohan's face was half red and swollen. He climbed up and looked at Nangong Chen angrily, but the only response he got was an extremely cold look. Emohan's expression changed, and he hurriedly said, Don't you mean to take me under your command? Nangong Chen's brows were shining. His temperament was extraordinary, and he looked like a banished immortal in white clothes, shrouded in divine light. He formed a sharp contrast with Emohan, who was covered in filth. When did I ever say I would take you under my wing? Nangong Chen asked back calmly. As soon as these words came out, Emohan's mind went blank and his body trembled. No wonder the other person looked at me so calmly just now. It turns out, he has always regarded me as a joke. His mind was suddenly struck by lightning. The next moment, Nangong Chen's figure flashed like lightning, and in just one step, he arrived in front of Emohan. He stretched out a finger, which landed on Emohan's holy armor, and exerted force lightly. Emohan had no time to react as a tremendous force erupted from his abdomen. He clearly saw that his Tongtian battlesuit had actually shattered. Puff! Emohan spat out a mouthful of blood and felt that his whole body was almost broken. In a trance, he felt that his cultivation was constantly regressing. Great power. Purple Palace. Spiritual sea. Build the foundation. Refining chi. Tempering the body. In an instant, his cultivation was gone and he became immortal. When Emohan felt it, his eyes widened and his face turned pale. Am I ruined? In the square, the beautiful figure had already returned to normal, with a black sword in her hand flashing with cold light. Nangong Chen raised the corner of his mouth, raised his eyebrows slightly, glanced at Emohan, and said lightly, The 3-year agreement has just begun. I'll give you the fairness you want. Come on. Chapter 427. You can call me brother. After he finished speaking, the whole audience fell silent. Mo Han's pupils dilated and his face turned pale. He never imagined that after the other party had crippled him, he would still want him to go up and fight Gu Mengling. How could he, an unarmed mortal, fight against the enemy? This isn't fair. This isn't fair. Mo Han fell to the ground, supporting himself with his hands, and kept backing away, his face full of panic. When these words were spoken, many people present sneered and sneered. Why didn't you say it was unfair when you were wearing that turtle suit just now? Yes, if you can do it, you can also ask someone to abolish the saint, but can you do it? Why don't you show that arrogant look you had just now? These words were like cold knives, piercing deep into Mo Han's heart. Mo Han's face turned red, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He never expected that the holy land of Heavenly Sword, which always prided itself on being righteous, could be so shameless. The key point is that he couldn't refute it because he had just done it himself. As long as I don't die today, I will kill you all one day. Mo Han's face was gloomy. He took a deep breath and spoke word by word through gritted teeth. He believed that with the help of the 100 refining divine scripture, he would be able to make a comeback sooner or later. After he finished speaking, everyone looked at each other, unable to suppress the smiles on their faces, and no one took Mo Han's threat seriously. Let's get going. A cold and pleasant voice sounded. Gu Mengling didn't want to listen to his nonsense, so the ink sword in her hand flew out. There was no mercy in her beautiful eyes, only coldness. I kept on giving in, but was humiliated by the other party again and again. If it weren't for the person with double pupils helping her today, she would have probably become a dead soul at the hands of the other party. Gu Mengling took a deep breath and decided not to hold back. The next moment, a flying sword appeared out of nowhere and pierced through Mo Han's heart with a swish. Boom! Mo Han's pupils shrank, and he fell to the ground. After seeing this scene, everyone looked very sad. Who could have expected that the final outcome today would be the death of the extremely arrogant Mo Han? Of course, all of this is thanks to those with double pupils. Thinking of this, they all secretly glanced at the extraordinary young man in white in the square, their eyes full of amazement. Nangong Chen's brows were calm as he watched Mo Han die. There was a faint light flashing in his pupils, making it difficult to tell what he was thinking. Interestingly, there is actually a small golden book hidden in the spiritual sea. If he had not just destroyed its cultivation with a palm, he would not have been able to feel that amazing aura. Even with his double pupils, he couldn't see any trace of the little book. Presumably, that is the golden finger of this child of destiny. It was hidden so deeply that it was no wonder that nothing unusual was discovered from beginning to end. But I just don't know what kind of magic weapon this little book is that can enable a person to change his fate. Just now, when he was sitting on the financial chair, he asked someone to bring Mo Han's information. After a quick scan, he naturally knew the other party's previous experience. Among them, there were two sentences that left a deep impression on him. The strange thing is, every time Mo Han fights with an opponent, he always understands their technique and even surpasses them, using it more skillfully than theirs. It's hard to imagine how terrifying this boy's talent is. He is no less than the monsters of the time. Could be a golden finger related to comprehension? Nangong Chen couldn't help but think of it, looking at Mo Han lying on the ground with a playful look in his eyes. Although the other party faked his death perfectly, and even his breath was like that of a dead person, he saw clearly the scene of the flying sword piercing his heart. A golden light burst out at his heart, blocking the attack for him. Soon, Zhao Lei and Gu Mengling walked towards him. Zhao Lei bowed deeply to Nangong Chen, clapped his hands vigorously, and said in a deep voice, "I thank you again, Your Highness, for your help today. From now on, I, Zhao Lei, will owe you a favor alone. You don't have to repay the favors your divine dynasty has given me before." His voice was filled with gratitude. He completely refreshed his impression of Nangong Chen today. He didn't expect that the other party, who was in a high position, was so loyal and righteous. If it weren't for the other party today, Gu Mengling would have died at the hands of these people from Lingguang City. My daughter, Gu Mengling, thanks the prince for saving my life. Gu Mengling was not reserved and expressed her gratitude to Nangong Chen, her beautiful eyes full of passion. Nangong Chen bowed in return, his expression gentle, and then said, "You two don't need to be like this. Even if Senior Gu didn't teach me the truth today, I can't bear to see this official causing trouble in the Holy Land. I will also take action to suppress him. What's more, Senior Gu asked me to take care of Saint Gu. I have received his kindness. Now I have been searching for the Saint Gu for a long time, and I am very worried. I finally found her with great difficulty. I cannot bear to see her being bullied by such a lunatic." As soon as these words were spoken, Zhao Lei's face was full of admiration. He didn't expect that the other party was so sensible and did not have the arrogance that was common among geniuses. He is truly worthy of being the heir of a top power. He is truly outstanding. The more Zhao Lei looked at Nangong Chen, the more he liked him. He was also secretly glad that he did not escape in Chu City last time and chose to fight with the Blood God cult. Gu Mingling, who was standing aside, had a dazed look on her face and her mind was blank. What did she hear? The other party actually cared about her so much and had been looking for her for so long. She said, no wonder the other person had such a peaceful aura. It turned out that her father had told him and left the inheritance to the other person. This made her heart uneasy and caused ripples in her heart, and some mist appeared in her beautiful eyes. Prince, is it possible that you came here just for my daughter? Nature. Nangong Chen did not hesitate, and then continued. In my divine dynasty today, the #1 academy is Tianyuan Academy. As the daughter of the former dean, and as the crown prince of this dynasty, you will definitely be given immense attention. I will accept his grace and protect you. If you don't mind, you can call me brother. After this, go back to the divine dynasty with me. He was very satisfied with Gu Mingling. Apart from being the daughter of Gunan, she was also a genius with terrifying talent. Naturally, he hopes to recruit such talents. What's more, if he heard correctly, Gunan had some conflicts with the Heavenly Sword Holy Land. Now that my identity has been exposed, it's not appropriate to stay here. Going to the divine dynasty would be the best option. After hearing this, Zhu Ying, who was standing by, widened her beautiful eyes in disbelief. My master is going to have a younger sister, so what should I call her? Master's wife? No, it should be Master's uncle. Gu Mingling stood there in a daze, staring blankly at Nangong Chen with her beautiful eyes, as if she had been hit by a huge opportunity. The contemporary genius, the first person with double pupils, is going to be his elder brother. After learning that the other party was helping her because of her father, she put aside her concerns and had a good impression of him. But this was too sudden. She was not prepared to live closely with her brother day and night from now on. This was the first time she had strange feelings towards a member of the opposite sex. Her pretty face couldn't help but blush, and mist seemed to be rising from her black hair. Around them, although Nangong Chen's voice was not loud, they were all cultivators after all, so they could hear clearly what the other party said. Everyone in the Heavenly Sword Holy Land suddenly widened their eyes, their faces filled with shock. What? Did they hear correctly? The one with double pupils actually wanted to claim the saint as his sister, and even wanted to take her away? Although their holy land is not bad, compared with the behemoth behind the man with double pupils, it is like a mayfly looking at the sky. The Tianyuan divine dynasty is definitely the most terrifying force in the entire Xintian realm at the moment. It can be said that as long as the saint agrees, they and I will be people from two different worlds in the future. For a moment, the men were envious, the women were jealous, and all kinds of complicated eyes fell on Gu Mingling. I have to admit that the saint's luck is really outrageous, which is really enviable. In the square, Zhao Lei was also shocked when he heard the words, but he quickly reacted, his eyes full of joy. He said to Gu Mingling anxiously, hurry up and meet your brother. It is a good thing for Gu Mingling to go to the Tianyuan divine dynasty, a great thing, not to mention that she now has a relationship with the prince. From now on, in the entire Xintian domain, anyone who dares to bully his disciple will be committing a crime of Tai Sui. After Gu Mingling reacted, she quickly saluted Nangong Chen, her delicate face full of seriousness. Gu Mingling, greetings to brother. From now on, Nangong Chen is her only relative in the world. Nangong Chen showed a look of satisfaction on his face, nodded slightly, and said softly, okay, from now on, you will be my Nangong Chen's adopted sister. Although we are not related by blood, I will treat you as my own sister. Then, he looked around and said in a slightly cold tone, everyone listen today. From today on, Gu Mingling is no longer the holy maiden of the Heavenly Sword Holy Land. She is the princess of my divine dynasty. Please tell the world for me. From now on, if anyone plots against me and dares to touch my sister, it will be equivalent to declaring war on me and the entire Tianyuan divine dynasty. The sound was like a huge bell, and with the blessing of spiritual power, it resounded throughout the sky, and the entire northern Shenzhou could feel it. Everyone present from the Heavenly Sword Holy Land bowed their heads, saluted, and said respectfully, in unison, we know. Seeing this scene, Gu Mingling's heart was filled with warmth, and her nose felt a little sore. Is this what it feels like to have a brother? The next moment, she could no longer control herself, rushed into Nangong Chen's arms, hugged Nangong Chen tightly, and sobbed. Woo-woo. The pleasant scent of purple orchid flowed into Nangong Chen's nostrils. Nangong Chen was stunned for a moment and hadn't reacted yet. It was not until he felt the warm and soft body in his arms that he reached out and patted the girl's back. Don't cry, don't cry. From now on, I'm here and no one will dare to touch you. Nangong Chen's tone was unusually gentle. Anyone who sees Gu mingling like this would probably be touched. What's more, in his previous life, he was also alone and longed for a brother or sister. He understands better than anyone what it feels like to be alone in this world. After comforting Gu mingling, Nangong Chen told her the words that Gu Nan had left for her. The dead cannot be resurrected, so cherish the present. Father and mother love you very much. Don't think about revenge for us. Our greatest wish is for you to grow up peacefully and without worries. Upon hearing this, Gu Mingling burst into tears again and threw herself into Nangong Chen's arms. Her father and mother are really no longer alive. From now on, Nangong Chen will be her only relative. At the same time, Mo Han on the other side raised the corner of his mouth slightly in a place where no one could see. What a bunch of idiots. You wouldn't believe it, but he once got a real feather life-saving talisman in the old land of Tianyuan, which helped him to block the fatal injury just now. As long as he succeeds in faking his death, he can make a comeback with the help of the 100 refinements divine scripture. These people today will be indispensable in the future. But soon he found something wrong. Why didn't these people say a word? Did they find out that he was faking his death? How is that possible? He had just closed off his 5 senses. Logically speaking, these people should have left him by now. Thinking of this, he decided to secretly open his eyes and take a look at the situation outside. But when he opened his eyes, it was shocking. He actually saw that Gu Mingling, the woman he had broken off engagement with, and who appeared to be extremely noble and beautiful in public, was actually in the arms of the man with double pupils. Mo Han was instantly struck by lightning. His face froze in shock, but he quickly reacted and closed his 5 senses once again. Damn it. Didn't Gu Mingling say that she was devoted to cultivation and not very interested in matters between men and women? Now what is this? Tell me. Seeing his former white moonlight being so intimate with another man, his heart was broken, as if green grass was growing on his head. In the future, if he can get out alive, he will never believe the nonsense of these women again. What do you mean by not being interested in matters between men and women? That's because you haven't met someone you like. At this moment, Mo Han's heart was broken and filled with despair, and he gradually understood this truth. In this world, looks really matter. To be honest, he hated Nangong Chen very much. He hated him, but at the same time he envied him. He hated that everything the other person had gotten since birth was something he would never get in his entire life. He also envied the other person, envying him for having such a good background, good looks, and the youth of countless young girls. But he himself can only survive in this world like a maggot. At this moment, Mo Han was well aware of the cruel side of this world, and all the passion he had before was gone now. Sure enough, for a teenager to become mature, he only needs to go through the torture of society. Fortunately, he realized that it was not too late. As long as he could survive after this time, he would surely rise again. Not long after, Mo Han felt that his body seemed to be carried by someone. He couldn't help but feel excited, thinking that these disciples of the Holy Land had finally set out to dump his body in the back mountain. It won't be long before I'll be free. Mo Han was extremely excited and didn't dare to open his eyes for fear of being discovered to be abnormal. Chapter 428. Mo Han's Death and the 100 Refining Divine Canon. The back mountain of Tianyuan Holy Land. My Lord Prince, is this place okay? After a long while, a respectful voice sounded in Mo Han's ears. After hearing it clearly, his heart suddenly tightened and cold sweat broke out. Your Majesty the Crown Prince. Doesn't that mean that the person with double pupils hasn't left yet? The next moment, a familiar cold voice sounded, confirming Mo Han's guess. Let's bury him here. He was quite a character, and I can't help but feel a sense of empathy for heroes. This place has excellent feng shui, and it's the perfect place to bury him. In the outside world, Nangong Chen said lightly, his eyes flashing, commanding the 4 or 5 disciples of the Heavenly Sword Holy Land in front of him. After hearing this, all of these disciples' eyes were burning with anger. They responded respectfully and threw Mo Han's body directly into a large pit not far away. When they saw the figure in snow clothes, who looked like a banished immortal standing there, as if mourning, the admiration in the eyes of these disciples became more fanatical. Who would have thought that this person with double pupils, as rumored by the outside world, was not only gifted, but also had the best character among all the geniuses they had ever seen? Which winner in the world would bury his opponent after the fight is over? What's more, Mo Han is just a worthless opponent. In their opinion, Mo Han was not worthy of such treatment from the man with double pupils. After all, what this official had done before was really too disgusting. But there is no way. The person with double pupils is such a noble person, which makes them admire him endlessly. These disciples took a look at the corpse lying in the pit, shook their heads, and said in their hearts that it was a great honor for you to be buried personally by the person with double pupils. Make sure you are born into a good family in your next life. In their opinion, what virtue or ability did Imohan have to allow the other party to bury him? Soon, after they had tidied up everything, they all looked towards the figure in the snow-covered clothes, with respect on their faces, waiting for the other party's decision. Nangong Chen simply gave a gesture to a few people. Seeing this, those people bowed, did not dare to ask any more questions, and quickly retreated. Soon, Nangong Chen was the only one left here. Nangong Chen stood in front of the deep pit. His white clothes were as white as snow, and when his double pupils opened and closed, there were astonishing beams of light that made people tremble, as if he could see through all the disguises in the world. He looked at Imohan, who lay motionless in the pit, with a hint of amusement on his lips. "Why don't you get up? Do you want me, the prince, to invite you personally?" After comforting Gu Mingling, he had a brief conversation with Zhao Lei and asked them to order someone to move Imohan's body here. The reason is simple. There is no one here, and it is the best place to kill and rob. After all, it is better to avoid letting others see this kind of thing as much as possible, as it will damage your image. Not to mention that it is a big fish. At the bottom of the deep pit, the smile on Imohan's lips froze instantly. What the hell? Didn't he leave? Why is he still here? Didn't we just say that heroes appreciate heroes and should give ourselves a proper burial? Could it be that he saw through his fake death? Was he trying to trick him? Thinking of this, Imohan's heart sank, and he decided to remain silent and respond to all changes with the same attitude. He just didn't believe that the other party could keep wasting time with him. However, the next moment, a startling glint of light flashed, carrying naked coldness, and rushed straight towards him. Imohan's limbs stiffened instantly, and he dodged it instinctively. Boom! With a loud bang, the terrifying gaze passed by Imohan and landed not far from his scalp, piercing through and creating an astonishingly deep pit. Imohan was immediately frightened and broke out in a cold sweat, gasping for breath. "What are you up to?" He subconsciously shouted at Nangong Chen, his eyes full of coldness. "Take out the book from your body, and I'll spare your life." Nangong Chen spoke without further ado. If he hadn't been afraid of damaging the book, he would have punched it long ago. Imohan's pupils suddenly shrank after hearing this, and then he pretended to be calm and said, "What are you talking about? I don't understand." "Don't understand? Then don't listen." A cold light flashed in Nangong Chen's eyes, and his 5 fingers suddenly clenched. The next moment, Imohan's eyes were filled with confusion, and he turned into a ball of blood mist. And just at this moment, a ball of pale yellow light flew out of his body and stopped in midair. Nangong Chen flicked his snow-white clothes, and the circle of light fell straight into his hands. At this moment, he suddenly saw the true appearance of the light circle, which was a golden book. The book is crystal clear, and every page is covered with dense scriptures of the Tao, exuding a sacred aura, just like a divine book. Just one glance gave Nangong Chen a great shock. 100 refining divine canon. He saw clearly the 4 large characters carved on the cover. The next moment, before he could react, the halo turned into a stream of light and disappeared into his body. At the same time, in Tianyuan territory, since everyone in the world was watching the whereabouts of the man with double pupils, it didn't take long before someone found out that the other party had appeared in the holy land of Heavenly Sword. For a moment, everyone was puzzled as to why the person with double pupils went to the Heavenly Sword Holy Land. Just when they were puzzled and even thought that some opportunity might have appeared in the Heavenly Sword Holy Land, 2 explosive pieces of news instantly spread from the Tianyuan divine dynasty. The person with double pupils actually broke through to the quasi-saint level at the age of 19. When this news was released, it instantly caused quite a stir in the entire Tianyuan territory. All forces were extremely shocked and were unable to react for a while. You know, the other party had just broken through to the God King not long ago, and now it has only been a short time, and he has broken through to the quasi-saint. A quasi-saint at the age of 19, my God. I can't even imagine it. Yeah, is this person with double pupils still human? How'd he break through so quickly? I've never heard of anyone seeing immediate results after entering the heart-refining pool. It seems that before long, this boy will surpass us older generations. The powerful men from those major forces sighed in amazement at its growth rate. At this moment, if anyone among them still regards the other as a genius, he would be a fool among fools. Not only them, but even the geniuses of their generation were filled with emotion and had bitter expressions on their faces. How can we catch up with him? He's too fast. Chase? You still want to chase? That person with double pupils is simply the most perverted of perverts. Anyway, I'm convinced. It is both our misfortune and our fortune that such a person exists in this era. Alas, it is hard to imagine that just one person with double pupils could suppress these once proud sons of heaven and make them lose their faith in Taoism, and they don't even have the slightest desire to compete with him. You know, before the person with double pupils was born, all forces flourished and heroes competed for supremacy. When had such a large number of strong people ever appeared? Chapter 429. The Princess of the Divine Dynasty, Mingling, and the Birth of the Fallen Son of the Sun. The other piece of news was equally shocking. That is, the person with double pupils actually found a sister in the Holy Land of Heavenly Sword. And that sister is the Holy Maiden of the Holy Land of Heavenly Sword, Mingling. Soon, something even more exciting came. Someone found out that Mingling was actually the daughter of the dean of Tianyuan Academy thousands of years ago. You have to know that at that time, Tianyuan Academy suddenly appeared and was regarded as the overlord in East Shenzhou. It recruited countless talented children from the common people. But at the same time, Tianyuan Academy also got into a lot of trouble and had considerable conflicts with many top forces in central Shenzhou and northern Shenzhou. Even though tens of thousands of years have passed, there are still people from many forces searching for the remaining people from Tianyuan Academy. If they find one, they will kill him. Of course, they were only looking for those who were left behind by the Tianyuan Academy back then. As for the Tianyuan Academy in the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty now, they couldn't afford to provoke it, as it had such a behemoth behind it. Now that the daughter of Gunnan, who has a deep blood feud, has been born, those forces that were hostile to Gunnan in the past will certainly not let her go. Thinking of this, many people showed amusement on their faces, wanting to watch a good show. However, not long after, just when people thought that the powerful families that had been provoked would speak out to condemn the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty, the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty took the lead and made a high-profile statement. The man with double pupils loudly declared in the Holy Land of Heavenly Sword that Mingling would be his imperial sister in the future. If anyone wanted to harm her, they would be his enemy and the enemy of the entire Divine Dynasty. As soon as these words were spoken, those forces that were still somewhat agitated were instantly speechless. Others said they would still care, but that was a person with double pupils, the core of the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. Would they really believe that the other party would suppress them for Mingling? But soon, another piece of news became a hot topic in Xiantian domain. That is, someone seemed to have seen the long-lost palace master Fundao of the Sun God Palace in Zhongshenzhou. Even next to Fundao, there was a strange man bathed in flames, with a fierce aura that gave people a strong sense of oppression. Even Fundao was respectful to him, bowing and nodding beside him. As soon as this news came out, it caused quite a stir. Some people were puzzled by this. Fundao showed up at this time, bringing someone back with him. Wasn't that just walking into a trap? Even the Divine Palace was destroyed. Some people also speculated that Fundao came this time for revenge. After all, how could a saint tolerate the annihilation of his entire family? This time when he returns, he must be full of confidence with the help of that foreign aid. Of course, they did not dare to underestimate a young man who could make a saint bow down to him, and secretly wondered if he might be the heir of a hidden power. However, speculation is speculation, and the truth behind it is still unknown to everyone. But everyone knew that Fundao's high-profile return, bringing that young man with him, was not necessarily a good thing for the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. On the other side, the Palace of the Sun God. At this moment, this paradise that was once filled with ethereal fairyland has now become a ruin, overgrown with weeds and desolate everywhere, without even a single person in sight. The entire mountain gate collapsed to the ground, and there was not a single intact piece of land to be seen. From a distance, it looked more like it was destroyed by a single palm strike from a terrifying and powerful being. Not long after, two powerful figures like fire landed here. "Sir, this is the Sun Palace of this world." There was still a flattering smile on Fundao's lips. Obviously, he had just boasted to the other party about the achievements of the Sun God Palace on the road. But soon, the smile on his lips froze, and his pupils contracted as he looked at the scene in front of him. What the hell? How did his Sun Palace become like this? The flaming man beside him frowned, revealing a hint of disdain. "Is this the palace of the Sun God? Did you take the right path?" After being stunned for a few moments, Fundao also put away his smile and looked around carefully, his eyes becoming more and more frightened. He was absolutely certain that this was the palace of the Sun God where he lived day and night. But it was destroyed. Who did it? Fundao's anger rushed to his heart, and he clenched his fingers. He suppressed the rage in his heart, looked at the fallen Sun God's son, and actually knelt on the ground, crying, "My lord, I just went out to greet you, and this Sun Palace was destroyed by others. All my years of hard work have been lost in an instant. My divine palace has always been well-behaved in the Xiantian territory and has never caused any trouble. But unfortunately, those people always have to target us. Now, even our shrine has been destroyed. Please help me and avenge our shrine." Fundao was crying and snotting, and he was almost hugging the other person's legs with his hands. Of course, this crying was very effective. After hearing this, the smile on the corners of the fallen sun god's mouth gradually disappeared, and a surging murderous intent blossomed in his red eyes. Who is it? He originally thought that the other party had led him astray due to his old age and was about to laugh at him. However, he didn't expect that this place was in ruins, and it was actually the palace of the sun god where he used to be, and he was killed? How brave. But soon, Fendao saw several figures patrolling in the distant void, and they happened to discover them. How dare you set foot on the land destroyed by the divine dynasty? Are you the remnants of the divine palace? In the void, for God King realm soldiers wearing silver armor shouted coldly with majestic expressions. On their waists hung the Tianyuan token. The four of them walked forward slowly. Obviously, after destroying the sun god palace, the Tianyuan divine dynasty specially sent people to patrol to prevent the old party from resurfacing. The words fell. Fendao slowly stood up. His face was extremely unfriendly. His eyes were fierce, and a terrifying aura poured out. The land destroyed by the divine dynasty? The remnants of the divine palace? He could guess a lot just from these few words. The son of the fallen sun god also looked at them with some amusement. After seeing Fundao's face, a cry of fear came from among the four people. It's Fundao. Let's go. They crushed the tokens in their hands. Their pupils shrank slightly, and they wanted to turn around and leave. No one expected that they would meet Fundao, the long-lost palace master of the sun god palace, here. And next to the other party, the young man wrapped in flames brought them a sense of oppression that seemed even more terrifying. Certainly, a cold voice sounded, and Fundao's red robe was waved. The next moment, the four of them were frozen in midair, their faces filled with extreme panic. Chapter 430. 1 month later, the Battle of Chishan in Zhongzhou. After a while, in the ruins, four silver-helmeted corpses lay quietly. Even though these four soldiers of the Tianyuan divine dynasty were tortured to a bloody pulp, they did not leak any information. After searching the souls of several people, Fendao glanced at them with disdain and spat. This dog raised by the Tianyuan divine dynasty is so loyal, bah. But then, he frowned, his eyes filled with horror. Unexpectedly, after he left that day, the little beast did not die at the hands of those people from the blood god cult. Instead, the blood god sect was almost killed by that little beast, and was finally killed by the strong men of the Tianyuan divine dynasty. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but curse the waste of the blood god cult in his heart. Before that, the other party had vowed to him that he would definitely kill the little beast. What's the point of killing him? Not only did he fail to kill him, but he also caused the fact that he secretly went to the Chu family that day to be leaked. Now, everyone in the entire Xintian domain knows that he is a traitor. After thinking of the terrifying talent and powerful strength of the person with double pupils, a deep fear flashed in his eyes. He was not afraid of other forces. He was just afraid of the man with double pupils. The other party's speed of progress was really frightening to him. He never expected that he could turn the tide of the inevitable death situation over Chu City that day. What a monster! Even though he had seen so many geniuses, he had to admit how terrifying the other party was. This is the first time I've seen such a freak in my life. However, what shocked him the most was that there were actually more than one Saint Kings in the Tianyuan divine dynasty. You know, now the Xintian realm is restricted by the heavenly Tao, and no one can break through to that realm. How did the other party do it? Could it be that they're the hidden family from the southernmost land who have such means? Fendao couldn't help but feel frightened, and his headache got worse. Seeing his appearance, the fallen sun godson beside him frowned slightly and said in a cold voice, "After all this time, what did you find during the soul search?" Upon hearing this, Fendao hurriedly told him the story respectfully. "So, the Sun Palace was destroyed by the forces behind the person you offended?" The son of the fallen sun seemed to be lost in thought, and a cold gleam flashed in his eyes. "Interesting. That person with double pupils is so lawless that he dares to attack you." Fendao nodded slightly, and then, with a bit of frustration, "Lord Diang, you must avenge our divine palace. We have suffered so much injustice. Look at how tyrannical the Tianyuan divine dynasty is. Even if they want to destroy our divine palace, they still send a few ants to monitor us. This is simply an insult to us. If this vengeance is not avenged, none of our ancestors will rest in peace." Fendao said angrily, clenching his fingers and glancing at the four corpses at his feet with disgust. He had seen the other party's strength. If the other party took action, the man with double pupils would definitely die. Of course, even if your sun palace in this world has nothing to do with me, it is after all the place where I practice cultivation. I cannot allow the person who destroyed it to live so freely in this world. A hint of murderous intent flashed in the eyes of the son of fallen sun, and his tone was cold and condescending. But now is not the time. This ant, sooner or later, I will kill him. My lord, do you have a better plan? Fun Dao's eyes flashed with shock, and he asked hurriedly. If this divine son is not mistaken, there are only a few months left until the immortal questioning conference. During this time, I will find my old dojo and retrieve my original weapon. By then, I will retreat to the dojo and break through to become a saint, so that I can face this immortal questioning conference. My opponent is never the one you call a person with double pupils. A person who is not even a quasi-saint is useless and not worthy of my attention. The fallen sun godson snorted coldly, his tone full of disdain, and then a hint of fear flashed in his eyes. My opponents are the hidden geniuses born from the southernmost land. Only they can pose a threat to me. After hearing this, Fun Dao's eyes were filled with shock. He originally thought that after breaking through to the saint level, the son of fallen sun would be invincible in the world. However, he did not expect that in this magnificent Xiantian domain, there would be someone he was afraid of. Are they strong? Fun Dao suppressed the shock in his heart. I come from the same era as you, and I'm also a genius resurrected by this world. The son of fallen sun god glanced at him and said lightly. Fun Dao was a little restless. Among those hidden families, there were also evildoers who were resurrected in this world. Oh my God, in this life, what is the reason that so many monsters and freaks gather in this era? Thinking of this, Fun Dao couldn't help but retract his previous shock at the man with double pupils. Now it seems that there are many geniuses who are stronger than that kid. Disdain gradually appeared in his eyes. He had been so frightened before, but now it seemed that the other party was just an appetizer before the storm, nothing to be afraid of. In the face of the general trend, let's see if that little beast can still make trouble. Golden Age. I don't know why my brothers were born so early in previous lives. Now I regret not having them. The son of the fallen sun god laughed and spoke slowly, with absolute confidence in his eyes that were filled with red flames. He knew very well that with his talent, he would be able to seize every opportunity in the Golden Age and quickly catch up with them and surpass them. His goals are not limited to the underworld. Have these 4 corpses sent to the gate of Tianyuan divine dynasty. This will be considered as a small amount of interest collected by this son of God. The son of fallen sun god said calmly, glancing at the corpses on the ground. Also, have that person with double pupils wash his neck. 1 month from now, when I break through to the saint level, I will fight at Zhongzhou's Red Mountain. Then, I will show my strongest posture and let the world witness how I kill the number 1 genius in your world. His tone was filled with absolute confidence, as well as a hint of disdain for the current genius. Yes. Upon hearing this, Fun Dao responded excitedly. He looked at the corpses at his feet, an evil light flashing in his eyes. I'm sure that when you, in the Tianyuan divine dynasty, see this, your reaction will definitely be very exciting. Chapter 431. Once in 100 years, the sword monument glows. And in the holy land of heavenly sword, after Nangong Chen dealt with Mo Han, he felt a golden light falling into his body. In an instant, a small golden book appeared in his spiritual sea, with the words 100 refining divine canon engraved on it. Nangong Chen only felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity, but before he had time to study it further, he heard someone calling him from a distance. Master, the heavenly sword saint invites you to observe the glowing light of the sword monument, which appears only once every 100 years in the Holy Land. Zhuing was wearing a black and gold phoenix dress and had a delicate face. After finding Nangong Chen, her beautiful eyes were filled with excitement, and she waved her hand. Sword monument's rosy glow. Nangong Chen could only put the matter of the golden book aside for the time being, raising his brows slightly, seeming a little confused. It's the unique phenomenon of the sword monument. It's said that whenever the sword monument radiates rays of light, any sword cultivator can comprehend different sword intents from it. For sword cultivators, this is definitely a great opportunity. Zhu Ying spoke slowly, and then there was a hint of pride in her beautiful eyes, and the corners of her mouth curled up. The sword saint lord knew that you, master, used a sword that day, so he specially asked me to summon you. Besides, everyone is waiting for you now. Nangong Chen nodded slightly, with a gleam in his eyes. He suddenly remembered that he had not signed in since he came here. In that case, let's go take a look at the glow of the sword monument and sign in. In the center of the square stands an ancient sword monument that reaches into the sky. It is said that this sword monument was left behind by a powerful swordsman who was proficient in swordsmanship. It contains infinite sword meaning and mysteries. For tens of thousands of years, sword cultivators from all over the world have come to comprehend it, but most of them have returned empty-handed. Only a few sword cultivators have been able to comprehend a hint of the true meaning in the sword monument. According to legend, there was once a person who comprehended one of the sword intentions. From then on, His cultivation path soared rapidly, and he had no rivals in the way of swordsmanship and achieved the title of Sword Saint. There are also people who meditate in front of the sword monument every day and night, and finally at the juncture of 10,000 years, they hone their sword intent to perfection. And one day, they have an epiphany and achieve enlightenment and ascend to heaven. As for those young sword cultivators who have received a few opportunities, in the future, they will gradually become generations of world-famous sword masters. All these facts have also created the extraordinary status of this ancient sword monument. This is also the reason why the Heavenly Sword Holy Land, just by having this sword monument, has become a place that sword practitioners all over the world yearn for. The sword monument has made an indispensable contribution. Isn't he here yet? Zhao Lei looked at the sword monument in front of him with a dim gaze and spoke. In front of him, the sword monument that was emitting a cold glow had bursts of light flashing from it, as if it was about to burst out from the sword body. This is the sword ray glow that appears once every 100 years, and it is also the strange phenomenon that will appear on this sword monument once every 100 years. The rays of light in the sword monument are not just simple rays of light. They're all terrifying sword intents. In the absence of anyone comprehending them for 100 years, the sword power will continue to grow on its own until it erupts uncontrollably. The rays of light that are emitted are the most difficult existence in the sword intent, and also the most terrifying power. If you can comprehend a little bit of it, you will be able to reach an extremely high level on the future sword path. At the same time, under the circumstances of the sword's glow, the gushing sword intent will be deeper and richer, and easier to comprehend than usual. This is why the Heavenly Sword Holy Land attaches so much importance to this time every time, and even some terrifying ancestors will be revived at this time. The purpose is to take advantage of this opportunity to see if there can be a breakthrough. I have asked the Holy Maiden of Heavenly Array to summon my royal brother. Gu Mengling obviously hasn't changed her tune yet. Her beautiful eyes flickered as she glanced at the mountain behind, seeming to be very expectant. Upon hearing this, Zhao Lei nodded slightly and stroked his beard. Not long after, a figure like thunder flashed across the sky. A terrifying aura instantly swept across the entire Holy Land. All the disciples of the Holy Land changed their expressions and looked over quickly. In front of the sword monument, a gray-faced old man stood there. His face was yellow, and his eyes were as bright as torches, like a sharp sword drawn from its sheath. Just looking at him made people feel torn apart. After seeing clearly, everyone gasped, and then their eyes showed a high respect, and they said respectfully in unison, "We have met the ancestor Shinshu." Ancestor Shinshu is the last ancestor in their holy land. He was about to reach his old age thousands of years ago. Now he relies on precious medicines and holy medicines to survive in the ancestral land. On ordinary days, they couldn't even see each other and could only know about each other's legends. There are also people who have entered the Holy Land for their entire lives and have never seen the other party. Some people have said that unless the Holy Land is destroyed, the other party will never appear. And now, amidst the glow of the sword monument, the Shinshu patriarch actually appeared. No wonder everyone was so shocked. Zhao Lei also hurried forward and saluted, saying, "Greetings, old saint." That's right, Patriarch Shinshu has another identity, and that is the Holy Lord of the Holy Land of the previous generation. The old ancestor, Shinshu, glanced at him, and an ugly smile appeared on his face as old as a tree. "Hey, little lazy, do you still remember me?" As he spoke, the air of dead silence could not stop spreading. After he finished speaking, Patriarch Shinshu coughed lightly, his face looking extremely weak. Zhao Lei felt a little embarrassed after hearing this, but when he saw the other party's condition, his pupils suddenly shrank, and he instantly understood the other party's purpose of coming out. Ancestor Shinshu, his birthday is approaching and he will soon die. The reason why I came out to the Sword Monument this time was to fight for a chance of survival. If I succeed, I can live. If I fail, I can only... Thinking of this, Zhao Lei fell silent and clenched his fists tightly. The other person had the best relationship with him when he was young and had been very kind to him. He didn't want to see the other person die like this. Ancestor Shinshu glanced at him and knew what he was thinking. He smiled and sighed. "Little lazy, after all these years, you're still the same as before. You haven't changed at all." Chapter 432. Ancestor Shinshu's birthday is coming. Your body. Seeing him like this, Zhao Lei hesitated to speak. The old ancestor Shinshu smiled without saying anything, then revealed a smile of relief and waved his hand. "I am in good health." Then, he looked at the elders in front of the sword monument, seemed a little puzzled, raised his eyebrows, and said, "Now that everyone is here, why don't you release the formation and unleash the sword steel's glow?" The leading elder shook his head after hearing this and said with a folded hand, "It's not that we don't want to activate this formation, but the Holy Lord wants us to wait for the crown prince of the divine dynasty to arrive." "Oh, who is this divine dynasty crown prince? Why have I never heard of him?" Ancestor Shinshu was a little surprised. He didn't expect that in the face of such a major event, he would have to wait for an outsider to come. He couldn't help but frown, and there was quite resentment in his tone. Could it be that, because he has not been born for so long, the Holy Land has fallen to the point where it has to rely on others for survival? Zhao Lei, who was not far away, also hurriedly brought Gu Mingling over to explain what had just happened, fearing that it would cause some unnecessary misunderstandings. "So, if they weren't here today, wouldn't I, a good disciple, be killed by those old thieves in Lingguang City?" After a few breaths, Patriarch Shinshu understood everything, his eyes filled with anger. He didn't expect that, during his retreat, these little guys became more and more rampant, and even dared to come and humiliate their current saint. However, after learning that all the people in Lingguang City, including the Song family's ancestor Song Lingfeng, the Qin family's ancestor Tianyuan, and the Jin family's ancestor Jin Hong, were dead, he could not help but fall silent, his eyes full of disbelief. Is a protector of the divine dynasty crown prince truly a saint king? Ancestor Shinshu looked at Zhao Lei in disbelief. Zhao Lei nodded reluctantly. Upon seeing this, Patriarch Shinshu was even more shocked. He had never thought that there would be such a person in this world who would protect a young man. Who exactly is the divine dynasty crown prince? He actually has such a terrifying background. At this moment, through the other party's narration, Patriarch Shinshu had a preliminary understanding of Nangong Chen and became even more curious. At the same time, he was also a little surprised. No wonder Zhao Lei wanted to wait for the other party to come over. Elder Shinshu looked at Gu Mingling, a hint of apology in his eyes, and said softly, "Child, I am sorry for humiliating you. This matter is indeed the fault of our holy land. From now on, you will follow them." If the other party really handed over his own saint to him, as Zhao Lei said, it would be a good thing. Of course, he also knew the identity behind Gu Mingling, and secretly sighed that it was no wonder that she had such talent. It turned out that her father was Gunan. Thinking of this, he recalled some memories and seemed to see a face that was somewhat similar to the girl in front of him. Ancestor Shinshu. Gu Mingling was a little flattered and didn't know what to say for a moment. "In that case, let's wait for that young man. I want to see if he's as magical as he said." There was a gleam in the eyes of the old Ancestor Shinshu, and his face showed anticipation. Zhao Lei nodded slightly and looked towards the back mountain until he saw a figure in white clothes appeared. He secretly swallowed his saliva, showed a strange look, and said aloud, "He's coming." Ancestor Shinshu also looked over and couldn't help but look a little stunned. In the back mountain, a young man with a handsome face like an immortal walked out slowly. His steps were not steady or fast, but he had hidden plans. With one step, he could travel across several miles. The distance was about the distance between two mountain peaks, and in a breath, the other party was already in front of them. What shocked Patriarch Shinshu even more was that the other party was emitting ethereal immortal energy and divine light, making him look like an immortal from the mortal world, and even he, a peak saint, could not see through it. It's simply so terrifying. Next to the young man, there followed a dignified young woman wearing a black and gold phoenix tail skirt. She had an elegant temperament, a delicate face, and also had a very extraordinary aura. In the entire Xintian domain, he is considered one of the most outstanding geniuses. However, compared to the young man in white next to him, he seemed a little dull. At this moment, everyone was watching this scene and couldn't help but be shocked again by the boy's extraordinary ability. "Sorry for the wait." Nangong Chen bowed slightly, his brows calm, neither humble nor arrogant. When Patriarch Shinshu saw this scene, his eyes were filled with admiration. He nodded and quickly helped him up. No, you've arrived at the perfect time." Zhao Lei and many other elders couldn't help laughing when they saw how quickly his face changed. He was quite resentful just now. "Who is this?" Nangong Chen was a little confused and looked at the extremely enthusiastic old man in front of him. His aura was as sharp as a sword and could be retracted freely. It was obvious that he was a master of swordsmanship. However, as soon as he raised his hand, the death energy overflowed and the vitality dissipated. "I'm afraid that time is running out." Nangong Chen made some inward evaluation. "Oh, this is the ancestor of our holy land, the Ancestor Shinshu. He came out of seclusion this time for the sword monument Xiaoguang." Zhao Lei hurriedly introduced. Nangong Chen nodded slightly, his eyes flashing, and he seemed to be in a daze. He had heard of Patriarch Shinshu, the former Holy Lord of the Heavenly Sword Holy Land, who was already a figure from previous eras. He is older than his grandfather, but he didn't expect that he is still alive. Patriarch Shinshu smiled happily and gave Gu Mengling a look, indicating her to come closer. Seeing this, Gu Mengling's ears flushed slightly under her long black hair. She took a few steps forward without paying attention and stood very close to Nangong Chen. Just like that, Gu Mengling stood on Nangong Chen's left, and Zhuing stood on his right. Both women were top-notch beauties, and everyone was envious of them. There were also many disciples of the Holy Land who were secretly heartbroken at this moment, wishing that the person standing in the middle was themselves. Since the prince is here, let's activate the formation. Zhao Lei looked at the four elders not far away and spoke. As soon as he finished speaking, a long-lasting aura, like an air wave, spread out from the sword monument and swept across an area of 100 miles. For a moment, the grass and trees all trembled, and the heaven and earth shook, as if a terrifying existence was about to revive. Immediately afterwards, Zhao Lei's voice was like a huge bell, resounding throughout the Holy Land. The sword monument's rosy glow will only last for 1 hour. I hope you all will seize the opportunity and not miss it. The sword intent contained in the rosy glow is divided into 3, 6, and 9 levels. I advise you not to touch the 9th and 6th level rule level sword intent. They are too violent. Forcing your understanding will result in life and death. As for the 3rd level attribute sword intent, as long as you can grasp even a tiny bit of it, you will be able to reach the highest realm of swordsmanship in the future. Becoming a leader in swordsmanship and opening up a sect is no problem at all. The future belongs to you. After these words were spoken, all the disciples present were moved and their eyes were burning with passion. Whether you can become a dragon among men, whether you can soar to the sky, depends on the sword intent this time. Chapter 433. The Difficulty of Understanding Sword Intent. Nangong Chen's pupils were dim, and his face was calm as he stared at the scene. Are there different levels of sword intent? It's quite interesting, but I wonder what kind of sword intent I can comprehend from it. Although the sword intent he has mastered is perfect, it also has its shortcomings. That is, he has reached that level by relying on techniques and his own talents. But in the end, there is one missing form, one missing soul. And the glow of the sword monument is a good opportunity for him to take his strength to a higher level. At the same time, Gu Mengling on the side also looked at the sword monument with burning eyes, praying that she could gain something from this. As for Zhuing, although she was not a sword cultivator, her eyes flickered as she looked at the sword monument with great curiosity. For her, this was also a novel experience. Sword of life, can I achieve this in my final moments? Ancestor Shinshu murmured, his eyes stunned, and his tone was both lonely and sad. It was thought that since he had achieved success at an early age, he would be able to continue to be so high-spirited and ambitious. But who would have thought that in the initial glow of the sword monument, he had the chance to comprehend a hint of the sword intent of life? That one incident completely cut off his chances of improving his swordsmanship. The life sword intent was the legendary 9th grade sword intent, and it was not so easy to comprehend. He hadn't even figured out the key points before that glimmer of light vanished. But it was with this insignificant bit of life sword intent that he was able to defeat his peers and become the leader of swordsmanship in that era. He was even able to outlive that generation of people and survive to this day. One can imagine how terrifying this 9th level sword intent is. All I can say is that his success was due to the sword of life, and his failure was also due to the sword of life. Now, with this last chance in his life, to be honest, he was also quite uncertain. He was well aware of the extraordinary nature of the 9th rank sword intent. Even a hint of it was enough to stump all sword cultivators in the world. Thinking of this, Patriarch Shinshu shook his head and gradually concealed the dejection in his expression. He looked at the millions of disciples in the Holy Land, with a slight sense of relief in his eyes. Fortunately, the Holy Land still had so many torches. He died in the future, but there will be a day when they will comprehend the sword of life in their Holy Land. As he watched, Patriarch Shinshu fixed his gaze on the ethereal young man in snow-covered clothes. Seeing that his face was calm, but his eyes were filled with eagerness to try, he couldn't help but become curious. He didn't know about Nangong Chen's previous experiences, but he could feel a sharp sword intent from the aura emanating from the other party. Obviously, the other party is definitely also a sword cultivator, and an outstanding one at that. Ancestor Shinshu's eyes became more and more curious. With such a formidable background, he was able to practice swordsmanship since childhood. It was truly rare and precious. He wondered what he could gain from the sword monument's rosy glow this time. But soon, Patriarch Shinshu shook his head. He was really old and confused, actually believing that such a young boy could gain something. You know, even the most inferior 3rd level sword intent would require thousands of years of accumulation in the sword path before there would be a chance. Not to mention the 6th and 9th level sword intents above that. Over the years, he has only been seen as one of them. A young man like him doesn't even need to think about it. What's more, he could no longer feel the flash of sword intent that had just flashed across the opponent's body. It was also possible that he had sensed it wrongly. Patriarch Shinshu shifted his gaze from Nangong Chen to the other geniuses in the Holy Land. For him, perhaps only these geniuses from the Holy Land who have accumulated thousands of years of sword skills may have the hope of comprehending a trace of the third-level sword intent. If we can produce another disciple with extraordinary talent who can comprehend the third-level sword intent, it will be considered as extending the life of the Holy Land. Ancestor Shinshu thought silently and prayed in his heart. Then, he set his eyes on Gu Mingling, believing that she was the one most likely to comprehend the sword intent of level 6 or above today. He learned from Zhao Lei that this woman's talent was not inferior to his own, and was even better than his own back then. Soon, under the formation of the 4 elders in the lead, terrifying sword intents burst out from the sword monument and soared into the sky. The sky is filled with rosy clouds, just like a sky full of brilliant fireworks, which is extremely beautiful. Many people in the Holy Land were a little dazed for a moment, but they quickly reacted and carefully felt the different sword intentions. Before long, the entire Holy Land fell into silence. Everyone was seriously comprehending, and only the hissing sound of sword intent tearing through the sky continued to be heard. After a few breaths, under this terrifying sword intent, some people gradually became mentally disturbed and their faces turned pale. Puff! An older disciple spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. The elder who was guarding not far away saw it, shook his head, and sent it out. This kind of situation was not uncommon before, and could be considered frequent. The Holy Lord also thought of this, and specially sent him to send out those who could not bear it. Sword intentions and rays of light, you little brats, it's not so easy to comprehend. Master Su sat on the armchair, holding a palm leaf fan, and spoke leisurely. He didn't know how many times he had experienced this. Every time, a bunch of people from the Holy Land couldn't stand it and voluntarily withdrew. The more serious ones were like that kid just now, who fainted directly. There are only a handful of people who can hold on to the end, not to mention those who can comprehend the sword intent. There are very few. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look at the several talented disciples that the Holy Lord had emphasized to pay more attention to. There, a fairy-like figure was particularly conspicuous. And around the other party, every disciple had a flushed face and a ferocious expression, as if they were suffering from great pain. In fact, it is really painful to comprehend the sword intent. Everyone who has experienced this knows it. It's like one soul is being torn apart by countless knives, and one has to choose the most suitable sword intent among these knives. But the strange thing was that the snow-white fairy figure seemed to have an extremely calm expression from beginning to end, without any emotion, as if the pain did not exist. This made Master Su secretly exclaim in surprise, and then he looked carefully for a while, but found nothing wrong, so he gave up. Could it be that he didn't even try to comprehend the sword intent? Master Su muttered something, feeling somewhat puzzled, but unable to notice anything unusual. He went to check on the other disciples. Soon, a quarter of an hour passed. Of the original 10,000 people in the venue, only 2,500 remained, which means 3/4 were eliminated. This shows how high the talent required. The rest of these people are nothing more than the elders of the Holy Land, or the top geniuses in the inner sect. Apart from them, there are no other ordinary people. Master Su looked at this scene without much change on his face. He just silently cast a spell to send those who had fainted away. As for those young men whose situation was still optimistic and who still had some strength left, they supported each other and walked out, their faces very pale. After they came out, they looked back and saw the remaining people in the venue, and they felt sincere admiration in their hearts. Only those who had experienced it firsthand knew how painful it was to comprehend the sword's will. The longer it took, the more violent the sword's will in the void would become. The more they comprehended it, the more intense the pain would become. It can be said that those who can stay on the field are all extraordinary people in the Holy Land, and none of them are simple. Chapter 434. The sword monument grows power, and a monster sword intent emerges. Time passed minute by minute, and soon, only half an hour was left. The number of people on the field has also been reduced from thousands to hundreds. Countless elders and talented students, with red faces and sweat all over their bodies, had no choice but to withdraw. There is no way. Since ancient times, the sword light of half an hour has been a huge dividing line. The sword intent hovering in the void has become white-hot. The sword intent at this moment was violent and sharp. Just getting close to it made me feel my mind shaking violently, almost torn apart, let alone keeping my sanity to comprehend it. It can be said that the 100 people remaining in front of the sword monument at this moment are the absolute core of the Holy Land, and are also the best in the sword art lineage in the Tianyuan realm. Master Su watched this scene with calm eyes. He saw that among the people that the Holy Lord had asked him to observe, one woman had already withdrawn after being unable to bear it any longer. That woman seems to be the Holy Maiden of the Holy Land of Heavenly Rays. He murmured, feeling somewhat shocked. I didn't expect that a layman who had never been exposed to Kendo could actually rely on his own talent to last for half an hour. He was simply amazing. The other side. Zhu Ying sighed helplessly, her whole body covered in sweat. Crystal-clear liquid beads slid across her snow-white neck and flowed between her delicate collarbones, which was quite charming. There was no way this was already her limit. She really had not had much exposure to swordsmanship. If she continued, her soul would probably be damaged. She glanced at the handsome face beside her with his eyes closed in concentration, and her beautiful eyes were stunned. Master, why does he seem to have no feelings at all? At this moment, Nangong Chen, under the terrifying sword power, had a calm expression, and his brows were still shining brightly. Not to mention a drop of sweat, she could even feel that the other person's breath seemed to have no fluctuations from beginning to end. This was extremely scary. In this situation, there are only two possibilities. One is that the other party has not understood at all. The other is that the other party's soul has been immersed in the sword intent and has reached the state of unity between man and nature. Zhu Ying secretly swallowed her saliva, her eyes filled with horror. Obviously, with the other party's aptitude, how could she not have understood it all? Coincidentally, Nangong Chen seemed to sense it at this time and opened his eyes to look at her. You go wait outside first. You don't have to wait for me. A calm voice sounded from Zhu Ying's mind. Zhu Ying's pupils shrank, as if she had seen a ghost. She nodded as if possessed by a ghost, bowed, and left. What the hell? How could this realization be suddenly interrupted? All I can say is that she really can't understand the other person. Before long, there was only a quarter of an hour left before the end of the sword monument. There were only a few people on the scene. All of them were well-known figures such as Saint Gu Mengling, Saint Sun Yiling Xuan, and the ancestor Xinxiu. Even the Holy Lord Zhao Lei had reached his limit. His face flushed red, and he roared angrily. A strange wind and thunder burst out from his body. Feeling the powerful force, everyone's expression changed. The Holy Lord has actually comprehended the third-level sword intent, the wind and thunder sword intent. Someone murmured, his face showing shock, and his tone was filled with excitement. During the last sword monument glow, the Holy Lord began to comprehend the sixth level of sword intent, the Taichu sword intent. And this time, he actually comprehended a new sword intent. He is worthy of being their Holy Lord. He is indeed so terrifying. They believed that the Holy Lord's future achievements would definitely far exceed their imagination. Master Su was also a little surprised. He stood there for a long time before he said 3 OKs in succession. This is one of the few double sword intentions in the long history of the Holy Land, and it is definitely not something that a single sword intention can match. On the other side, after Zhao Lei comprehended the wind and thunder sword intent, he felt extremely comfortable all over, but he did not disturb the people around him too much and quietly withdrew. Soon, Zhao Lei came to Master Su's side. Congratulations, Holy Lord, on obtaining the dual sword spirit. Master Su bowed and smiled. Zhao Lei shook his head and was not too proud. He knew that even if he had two sword intents, even if it was a 6th-level sword intent and a 3rd-level sword intent, they were still far inferior to a 9th-level sword intent. But from his point of view, he is far inferior to the ancestor Xinxiu. What's more, there are always people better than you in this world, and there are people who have more swordsmanship than him. How is this session going? Zhao Lei was silent for a while and asked. Master Su put away his smile, shook his head, and said in a deep voice, It's much worse than the previous times. Many of the core disciples who were expected to be successful haven't even grasped the 3rd-level sword intent. Zhao Lei fell silent again, his brows furrowed, thinking, as the guardian of the sword monument in the Holy Land, the other party would certainly not lie to him. So, does that mean that their Holy Land is really getting worse with each passing year? This may also be related to the terrifying sword intent that emerged from the sword monument this time. The difficulty has increased dramatically compared to before. Master Su seemed to have thought of something and added. He looked at the rays of light in the sky with awe, especially the few brilliant ones. It seems that after 100 years of sedimentation, this sword monument has given birth to some monstrous sword intent. What he was referring to was the 9th-level sword intent. Zhao Lei frowned even deeper when he heard this. The addition of those 9th-level sword intents was not a good thing for them. After all, apart from Patriarch Xinxiu, who else in their Holy Land could comprehend the 9th-level sword intent? Moreover, Patriarch Xinxiu's success that time was a great fortune among all the luck. He didn't believe that anyone could comprehend the sword intent of those monsters by force. In the silence, the two of them silently turned their eyes to the remaining people. A few breaths later, another strange vision appeared in front of the sword monument. Ancient trees towered into the sky, and grass swords stood upright. Everyone looked over and found that it was the holy son, Yiling. He had actually comprehended the third-level sword intent, the 10,000 trees sword intent. For a moment, everyone was amazed at his talent. He was the first genius today to comprehend the third-level sword intent. Yiling wiped the sweat from his forehead, his eyes full of excitement. He succeeded. Soon, he stood up with a proud look on his face, glanced around, and wanted to show off. But when he saw two young figures in front of the sword monument who were more persistent than him, he couldn't help but be surprised. How could you hold on for so long? He was a little dazed and muttered. But soon, Yiling shook his head. Persisting for a long time did not mean that he would be able to comprehend a sword spirit better than him. He might fail soon. After all, this kind of thing is not uncommon. Thinking of this, he confidently strode away and looked at everyone else from a distance. Chapter 435. Six Paths Become One, Samsara Sword Intent. At this moment, there is only a quarter of an hour left before the glow of the sword monument ends. And in front of the sword monument, the number of people has dropped from tens of thousands to only 3. It is conceivable that the more time passes, the more difficult it becomes to comprehend the sword intent. The ancient saint lady was extremely talented and even managed to hold on until the last quarter of an hour. When someone saw that beautiful figure, there was a flash of surprise in their eyes. But soon, someone shook their head. They saw that Gu Mengling's breathing gradually fluctuated and her figure was shaking. Obviously, she was about to reach her limit. Some people also spoke up to admire the old figure standing tall like a green pine. It was none other than the ancestor Shinshu. Ancestor Shinshu is indeed worthy of being in existence who has previously comprehended the 9th level of sword intent. Even at such a critical moment, he can remain calm and only breathe rapidly. And this is not the most shocking thing. What no one could have imagined was that among the 3 people, there was actually one who was not from the Holy Land and who held on to the end. This person is none other than the one with double pupils. Nangong Chen sat cross-legged in front of the sword monument, his brows calm, his whole body enveloped in divine light. When he exhaled, everyone could actually see the sword breath exhaled, tearing the space apart. The other person was wearing a snow-white coat that was so dazzling that it was hard not to notice him. Soon, everyone noticed that something was wrong with him, and their faces turned strange. Strange, the sword monument's glow becomes increasingly violent towards the end. Just getting close to it causes a sharp pain in the heart. Yet how come those with double pupils seem to be fine? Yes, throughout history, I have never seen anyone who can remain calm during the last quarter of an hour of the sword monument's glow. What do you think? Could it be that he didn't even bother to comprehend the sword's rays of light, and was just going through the motions? That's impossible. Back in the Immortal Treasure, he showed off his swordsmanship, which was no less powerful than ours. He even managed to kill a saint with a single sword strike that day, in Chu City. Everyone was talking about it, their eyes filled with confusion. Zhao Lei and Master Su were also looking at Nangong Chen. Can you see anything odd? Zhao Lei frowned and spoke out. This is too strange. How can someone remain so calm in front of the sword light, without even breaking a sweat? If the other party was not the prince of the divine dynasty, he might have suspected that he was the reincarnation of some old monster of swordsmanship. After hearing this, Master Su did not dare to hide and expressed his judgment. His breathing is steady, his expression calm, and the sword energy within his breath is incredibly astonishing. Furthermore, the rays of light seem to be converging towards him. This child is very likely to achieve the legendary state of unity between man and nature. Master Su's tone was filled with shock and disbelief. As the guardian of the 1,000-year-old sword monument, there is a high probability that he would not be wrong. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhao Lei's pupils suddenly shrank. Harmony between man and nature? This is the highest realm of sword comprehension described in ancient books. It is said that once one reaches this realm, the soul can roam freely in the sword intent and achieve the unity of man and sword. This is the qualification that only a natural-born swordsman should have. He didn't have time to think about it before an ancient aura erupted from not far away. Zhao Lei and his companions looked up. A light blue light descended onto Gu Mengling's body. Immediately afterwards, an astonishing vision emerged. In the Shinsu cold pond, the moon was shining high in the sky. A cold light shone on the dome, passing through the void, and the sword collapsed the snow-capped mountains. The reflection of the lake reflected on Gu Mengling's beautiful face. The coldness between her eyebrows became more and more terrifying. As her eyes opened and closed, the shadow of a cold sword flashed by, making her look like a female swordsman. Everyone was shocked when they saw this scene, and they also realized that Gu Mingling had comprehended the extraordinary sword intent. Why have we never seen the sword intent that the ancient saint girl comprehended? What kind of sword intent is that? A disciple asked in a low voice, with some confusion in his eyes. The other disciples echoed this, expressing their confusion. Even some elders were stumped, as they could not figure out the origin of this sword intent for a moment. Taishu Handan's sword intent, 6th level sword intent. A voice sounded. It was Zhao Lei. Zhao Lei hurried forward, his face filled with uncontrollable excitement. He looked at Gu Mingling, who was gradually getting up, and said softly, "Am I right?" Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Gu Mingling did not hide anything. She nodded slightly, a smile flickering in her beautiful eyes. "I can't really hide it from Master." After receiving Gu Mingling's reply, everyone present took a deep breath. Who would have thought that after the 3rd level sword intent of the Holy Sun Yulingxuan, there would be another 6th level sword intent, and it was their holy maiden. However, when he thought that the saint would leave them after this time, he felt a little regretful. Yulingxuan, who was in the crowd, was also looking at the beautiful figure in shock, his eyes wide open. How is it possible? As both of them are prodigies in the Holy Land, how could she be the only one to comprehend the 6th level sword intent? He clenched his fists slightly, feeling extremely unwilling, as if he had suddenly fallen to the bottom of a valley. However, Yulingxuan didn't know that what shocked him the most was not just this. The highlight was yet to come. On the other side, Gu Mingling also came outside. Zhao Lei was very satisfied with her and sighed repeatedly. "Great, Taishu Handan. This is the best among the 6 grades. Since ancient times, those who can comprehend the meaning of this sword can be counted on one hand. You are still young, yet you have already comprehended this sword intent. Your future will be smooth sailing. You may even be able to comprehend the 9th level sword intent. It will only be a matter of time before you surpass us. Even if you follow the Crown Prince from now on, you will not be inferior to the genius beside him." Your teacher is very relieved. What Zhao Lei was actually most worried about was that after Gu Mingling passed away, even though she had the support of the person with double pupils, there would still be some gossip. Without the corresponding strength and talent, she would inevitably be looked down upon by others. Now that the other party has comprehended the 6th grade sword intent, he is relieved. With the other party's 8th grade talent and this sword intent, he is destined to achieve great success in the future. After hearing this, Gu Mingling bowed to him solemnly. She knew that without his careful teaching over the years, she would not be who she is today. Master Su also looked at Gu Mingling with satisfaction. This child has had a hard time. Ever since Mingling was brought into the Holy Land by the Holy Lord, she has been talked about by everyone. After she grew up, she gradually revealed her talent and won the position of the saint. But it's a pity that the engagement with Mo Han was not supposed to fall on this child. However, because the previous Holy Lord had done a favor for the Mo family, he designated the Holy Lady to have a verbal marriage contract with his son. Coincidentally, the previous Holy Lady retired at that time, and the position fell to Gu Mingling. This matter of the previous generation should not be mentioned in this generation. But fortunately, this child is very lucky and has a blessing in disguise, and has such a terrifying brother. Master Su was sincerely happy for her. Soon, after a brief interlude, everyone turned their attention to the remaining 2 people in front of the sword monument. As time passed, there was only the time of the last stick of incense left before the glow of the sword monument ended. I never thought that in the glow of the sword monument, there would be someone who could hold out with the ancestor to the end. A disciple sighed and looked at the extraordinary figure in snow-white clothes in disbelief. Everyone was also surprised and stared at the scene in amazement. But before long, everyone's attention was focused on the old figure. At this moment, above the head of Ancestor Shinshu, a sword cloud emitting green light suddenly gathered. Vigorous vitality continuously erupted from the sword aura, like heavy air waves, sweeping across the entire Holy Land. Even above the sword cloud, there is a terrifying tree of life standing, emitting crystal-clear divine light. This is the legendary 9th level sword intent, the sword intent of life. When the disciples and elders present felt it, they could hardly conceal the horror in their eyes. According to what the old seniors in Holy Land said, it seems at the time when Ancestor Shinshu comprehended the sword meaning of life was not as grand as this vision. This also proves that there is a great probability that this time, Ancestor Shinshu can comprehend the legendary 9th level sword intent, the sword intent of life. Thinking of this, everyone's faces were filled with uncontrollable excitement. The fact that Patriarch Shinshu was able to comprehend the sword intent of life and thus increase his lifespan, is definitely a great joy for their holy land, and is enough to elevate the strength of their holy land to a higher level. For a moment, everyone's attention was paid to Ancestor Shinshu rather than Nangong Chen standing beside him. Even Zhao Lei and others' eyes lit up when they saw it. But soon, their faces were stunned. The sword cloud suddenly collapsed, the tree of life shattered, and all the strange visions turned into ups and downs. Ancestor Shinshu's eyes opened instantly, and he spat out a mouthful of blood plasma. His face was extremely pale, and he looked even weaker than before. Everyone's mood hit rock bottom. Obviously, Patriarch Shinshu failed again. I'm not willing to accept this. Feeling that spiritual light dissipate, Patriarch Shinshu showed an unwilling look on his face, clenched his 5 fingers tightly, and muttered. The luster in his eyes had long since faded, and he suddenly looked extremely haggard. He spent nearly 10,000 years for this sort of life, but never expected that he would still fail at the last moment. He was ultimately unable to fulfill his wish in this life. But not long after, the expression of Patriarch Shinshu changed, as if he sensed something, and he suddenly looked to the side. The only remaining figure in snow clothes in front of the sword monument had opened his eyes at some point, held up the sky with one hand, and clenched his 5 fingers suddenly. Sign in successful. Sign in reward. The 6 swords merge into one. The sword of reincarnation. As 2 voices sounded in his ears, Nangong Chen's expression remained calm. A golden light burst out from between his eyebrows, transforming into a golden sword, which he held tightly. The next moment, in the sky full of rosy clouds, 6 terrifying sword clouds descended with a loud bang. Chapter 436. Cutting off the reincarnation with one sword. The human emperor sword in Nangong Chen's hand flashed with brilliant sword light. His black hair danced, his snow-white clothes fluttered, and he was accompanied by 6 divine clouds, like a sword immortal descending from the sky. Everyone's pupils suddenly shrank, and their minds went blank. What did they see? In those 6 rays of light, there was actually the sword intent of life that the ancestor Shinshu had sought before. The vitality was as vast as the ocean. It was completely on a different level from the strange phenomenon that the ancestor Shinshu had just seen. Compared with the 2, it's like a dwarf compared to a giant. However, this is just one of the 6 sword clouds. The remaining 5 had a deathly sword intent that filled the void and loneliness of the sky, as well as a causal sword intent that swirled around the shackles of cause and effect, intertwined with sword energy. There is no doubt that these 6 sword intentions are all the top sword intentions among the 9 levels. However, what shocked the most was yet to come. The 6 sword clouds that shot up into the sky suddenly merged together. Their divine light dissipated and turned into a 6-colored chaos. Boom! The rumbling sound of swords resonated from the sword monument, creating a terrifying resonance with the chaotic sword intent in the sky. The people from the Holy Land present widened their eyes, breathing rapidly, and stared at this scene intently. They actually saw the 6 sword intentions successfully merge. In an instant, a supremely terrifying sword aura erupted from the sky without any warning, sweeping across the entire area. The weaker disciples on the field were immediately repelled by the blast of energy. Their faces turned extremely pale, but their eyes were filled with unprecedented excitement. Just a wisp of sword energy can benefit them a lot, making them feel refreshed, and all the difficulties in the way of the sword seemed to be suddenly revealed. You know, neither the sword intent comprehended by the Holy Lord nor the sword intent of life comprehended by the ancestor had brought such an effect. This also indirectly proves how terrifying the unknown sword intent born in the void is, which actually allows them to directly comprehend the way of swordsmanship. As for the elders, they were even crazier. They ignored the sword energy and sat cross-legged on the ground and began to gain enlightenment. They felt that this might be the greatest opportunity they could encounter in their lives. After all, they can only see the fusion of the 6 paths and 9 levels of terrifying sword intent once in several lifetimes. Those 6 sword intentions are the monster sword intentions you mentioned. After a long time, Zhao Lei slowly came back to his senses and said in a trembling voice. Even he, the Lord of Heavenly Sword, could not understand the scene. After hearing this, Master Su beside him felt his legs go weak and he collapsed to the ground. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and was a little terrified. These 6 sword intentions are the 6 strongest in the sword monument. What a monster they are! They are simply monsters among monsters. As the guardian of the sword monument, he knew the origins of the 6 paths of sword intent better than anyone else. The difficulty of comprehending them was terrifyingly extreme. Even the ancestor Shenshu spent 10,000 years comprehending them before comprehending a trace of the life sword intent. And now, he actually saw that the 6 legendary supreme sword intentions were all born for a young man. But soon, Master Su's face became a little excited. As expected, he really just entered the legendary unity of heaven and man. Zhao Lei was stunned when he heard this. Just now he thought that the other party was too old, and he had seen it wrong, so he didn't take it seriously. However, he didn't expect that it was actually true. On the other side, Yilong Xuan, who was not far away, also had a stiff mouth and stared at the scene in a daze. What the hell is this? Can anyone tell me what happened? Why could that person with double pupils, who was not from the Holy Land, comprehend so many terrifying sword intentions? But not long after, he saw a scene that was even more heartbreaking. The girl he had a crush on, Gu Mingling, was actually infatuated with the girl with double pupils. The same was true for the holy maiden of Tianjin beside him. Her beautiful eyes shone with light, and she looked at the graceful figure in the snow-covered clothes with great excitement. Yiling Xuan's fists hardened, his eyes were filled with jealousy, and then he lowered his head, feeling extremely powerless. He had to admit that the person with double pupils was indeed much better than him. The gap was so great that he didn't even have the right to be jealous. Thinking of this, Yiling Xuan took a deep breath, stopped thinking about it, and sat cross-legged on the ground to comprehend the sword intent. He was too lazy to struggle. At this moment, the craziest person was the ancestor Shinshu. After he sensed the majestic sword intent of life, he suppressed the joy in his heart and closed his eyes tremblingly to perceive it. He actually saw the complete sword intent of life in his lifetime. But soon, his calm eyelids began to twitch. Something's wrong, something's wrong. Why did I sense 5 more terrifying sword intentions? Even each one is not inferior to the sword intent of life. Ancestor Shinshu opened his eyes, and after seeing the scene in front of him, his pupils shrank slightly. Then he rubbed his eyes and looked again. What is this? Comprehending 6 sword intents at once, or 6 complete 9th-level sword intentions. At first he thought he was hallucinating due to presbyopia and even believed that God had sent down a flash of inspiration to give him an epiphany. But he never expected that this was actually true. Everything he saw just now was real. Ancestor Shinshu fell silent, looking at the figure in snow-white clothes with 6 sword clouds, and felt his face burning with pain. It turned out that he was not mistaken. The terrifying sword intent at the beginning was indeed from the other party. He didn't even think at first that an outsider like him could comprehend the sword intent, no matter how extraordinary his talent was. After all, in this world, there are mountains between us when we cross the road. However, everything in front of me now is a slap in my face. Patriarch Shinshu took a deep breath. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that there was such a monster in the world who could comprehend 6 9th-level sword intents at once. Then what is the incomplete life sword intent he has comprehended over the past 10,000 years? Even until the end, he didn't comprehend the mystery of the sword of life. He thought he was going to die like this, but he never thought that God had played such a big joke on him. Thinking of this, Patriarch Shinshu showed a hint of bitterness, bowed devoutly to the young man in front of him who looked like a sword immortal, and put aside all his face. Soon, he closed his eyes, and the powerful sword intent burst out again. A blue cloud and vitality shone all over the place. At this moment, under the sword-like haze in the sky like a bright moon, the ancestor Shinshu finally realized the sword meaning of life that he had been trying to understand all his life. Not long after, in that void, the grand glow finally faded away, and the 6 sword intentions merged into one, turning into a sword intention like chaos. Nangong Chen opened his eyes, and the human emperor sword in his hand was now wrapped with 2 black and white patterns. The sword's aura was astonishing, as if it could cross the long river of time and kill everything in the world. One sword opens the door to life. One sword cuts off the road to death. One sword cuts off the cycle of reincarnation. What a sword intent of reincarnation! Nangong Chen murmured, a gleam of light flashing between his pupils. At the same time, all the people from the Holy Land present gradually came back to their senses, and when they saw the figure in white, their pupils shrank slightly. What do they see? A sword light split the sky and the earth, and billions of skeletons of living creatures emerged in the sky. All things sank and floated, and all the cycles of birth, old age, sickness, and death disappeared in an instant, reversing cause and effect. Oh my God, what kind of sword intent is this? Even the life sword intent they had seen before wasn't this terrifying. Everyone looked at Nangong Chen in disbelief. What kind of sword intent is this? The oppressive feeling it brings to me is not even on the same level as the 9th-level sword intent. Yes, just one glance, and my soul feels as if it's about to be torn apart. I even feel a sense of annihilation and reincarnation. It's simply unheard of. Who could have imagined that today, someone who is not from our holy land could actually comprehend such a terrifying sword intent? Even the Shinshu Patriarch couldn't reach this level. In fact, if it weren't for the person with double pupils gaining enlightenment today, the Shinshu Patriarch would have already. The talent of the one with double pupils is truly terrifying. He's the best in history. All other geniuses pale in comparison to him. Everyone sighed in admiration, their eyes filled with amazement at Nangong Chen. But some people shook their heads, as if they had thought of something, and said, "His talent is indeed astonishing, but compared to the past and present, it is a bit exaggerated. After all, the true monster of Tianyuan territory has not yet been born." As soon as these words were spoken, some people's faces became extremely stiff, as if they thought of terrifying figures. "Hiss, are you talking about that group of evildoers from ancient times, or from a hidden family?" Of course, the immortal questioning conference has not yet arrived. In the next few months, those true geniuses will be born. Although those with double pupils have terrifying talents, those people are not inferior either. If you want to know the outcome, you'll have to wait for the immortal questioning conference in half a year. Chapter 437. The Emperor of Man has been here before. The secret story of the 5 sons who defied fate. There was a lot of discussion around. Nangong Chen felt something, but he just glanced at him lightly, shook his head, and his eyes were very calm. For him, neither the upcoming immortal questioning conference nor the hidden freak that was about to be born interested him. Having double pupils is the way to invincibility, and that is not just talk. What's more, he now has acquired many means, and it is not an exaggeration to say that he can defeat the geniuses of this world. He retracted the human emperor sword in his hand and looked at the sword monument in front of him with a strange look in his eyes. Unexpectedly, the sign-in reward at the Heavenly Sword Holy Land this time was the 6 different sword intentions within the reincarnation sword intention within the sword monument. Could this steel have some connection with the human emperor? Nangong Chen's eyes flickered as he pondered. The human emperor's reincarnation seal, the reincarnation sword intent, all use the way of reincarnation. Since ancient times, there have been only a handful of powerful people who can comprehend the cycle of reincarnation, and it just so happens that the human emperor is the best in this field. He looked at Zhao Lei, just as he was about to ask. But Zhao Lei spoke first. "Prince, could this sword intent you've comprehended be the legendary sword intent of reincarnation?" Zhao Lei suppressed his excitement and said in a trembling voice, "If the rumor hadn't been so old, he wouldn't have remembered it just now. According to the ancient books of the Holy Land, at the beginning of the founding of the sect, the ancient emperor came to the Holy Land and borrowed a dojo to comprehend the way of the reincarnation sword, until he finally realized it 10,000 years later. Afterwards, in order to thank the Holy Land, the ancient emperor specially injected a reincarnation sword force into the sword monument for the descendants of the Holy Land to comprehend. Unfortunately, after the human emperor left, the descendants of the Holy Land were unable to comprehend the sword intent of samsara. Over time, because the sword intent of samsara was too powerful and profound, it gradually evolved into other sword intents. The different levels of sword intent come from this. The sword intent that was initially split was of the 9th level, and after the 9th level sword intent was further divided, it became the 6th and 3rd level sword intent. This also made the people of that world's Tianyuan Holy Land soar to the sky and become the world's #1 sword Holy Land. Over time, the history of the different levels of sword intent gradually became obscured. Reincarnation, sword intention. After hearing this, the elders with higher qualifications present had some doubts in their eyes, and then suddenly reacted. He said that the samsara sword intent sounded so familiar, and it turned out to be left by that person. After hearing this, the other elders also looked puzzled, not to mention the disciples. Does our sword monument contain the sword intent of reincarnation? Master Su shook his head and walked forward to explain to them. After a few breaths, everyone looked at Nangong Chen with burning, shocked, and puzzled expressions, as if they were looking at a monster. The samsara sword intent left behind by the human emperor had been unresolved for several generations, and yet the people of their holy land hadn't grasped it themselves. And yet, the other party had actually managed to comprehend it the first time he came. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Nangong Chen felt helpless and nodded slightly. He didn't want to pretend, but there was no way. Someone always made him pretend. However, what surprised him was that this samsara sword intent was actually related to the human emperor. Thinking of the 3 unique skills of the human emperor that he had obtained before, and how the other party blocked the attack of the bloody hand for him and recognized him as the successor of the human emperor, it seemed that he would be inseparable from the other party for the rest of his life. Nangong Chen sighed in his heart, his expression a little complicated. And below, when everyone saw him nod in affirmation, their pupils trembled and they were speechless. Is the chaos formed by the six paths merging into one really the legendary sword intent of reincarnation? His talent is simply terrifying, an elder murmured, expressing the thoughts of everyone. On the other side, Gu Mengling's beautiful eyes shone brightly as she exclaimed, "Royal brother, you are truly amazing." Zhu Ying standing by also had a complicated expression on her face, with a hint of deep shock in her amber pupils. It turns out that at that time, he had already comprehended the six paths of sword intent. Great, great. Heroes are born young. Zhao Lei said good 3 times in a row. He had never been so excited before. The look in his eyes when he looked at Nangong Chen was as if he was looking at a piece of beautiful jade made of solid sky. If the other party was not the prince of the divine dynasty, he would really want to snatch him away to their heavenly sword holy land. He is definitely a good seedling for practicing swordsmanship, and it would be a pity to practice other things. He has never spoken so highly of the geniuses of his generation. When everyone saw this scene, they didn't feel any difference. After all, that person had double pupils, and anyone would be the same. Nangong Chen glanced at the sword monument and breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that the 6th 9th level sword intents, which he had comprehended, could still be operated on their own. He was really afraid that after he had fully comprehended it, the sword monument would collapse, and he felt a little guilty about eating and taking it. However, apart from the 6th and 9th grade sword intents, there are no other sword intents left. Only the 3rd and 6th grades are left. In layman's terms, there are only some residues left, but the people in the Holy Land seem to have not discovered them yet. I don't know if the other party will ask me to pay compensation after knowing this. Forget it. At worst, we can register it under Lu Daju's name. He has a big family and a big business, so he should be able to afford the compensation. Nangong Chen thought as he should, without blushing or getting nervous. After all, the other party claimed to be his younger brother, so what was wrong with giving his elder brother some money? Seeing that he was silent, Zhao Lei thought he was being modest, so he praised him a few more times. Soon, a wave of energy full of vitality erupted from the square. Everyone looked and saw the thunder-like figure appear in front of Nangong Chen in an instant. This person is none other than the ancestor Shinshu. At this moment, the ancestor Shinshu looked more energetic than before. His white hair gradually turned darker, and his old eyes were full of energy. Obviously, he has successfully comprehended the sword intent of life. Not only does the strength improve greatly, but the lifespan also increases greatly. If it weren't for the restrictions of the heavenly Tao rules, he could break through to the Saint King in minutes. Everyone's expression changed slightly, and then their eyes showed deep joy, but with a hint of doubt. Because the double pupil person had made such a commotion just now, they didn't have time to pay attention to the Shinshu patriarch, nor did they know how the other party had comprehended the sword of life. Ancestor Shinshu stared at Nangong Chen closely, his eyes full of piety, and then bowed. For a moment, everyone was stunned. They didn't know why Patriarch Shinshu wanted to pay such a great tribute to the other party. Some people guessed something and opened their mouths slightly. Could it be? Young friend, please accept my humble respect. It's no exaggeration to say that you've saved my life by allowing me to reap such great fortune in my later years. Ancestor Shinshu said sincerely, his tone full of gratitude. What he said was true. It would be impossible to live a lifetime without the other person. Seeing this scene, everyone's guess was further confirmed. Their throats were dry, and they seemed to want to say something, but they didn't know what to say. Over the years, Lingguang City has been able to act so recklessly. Isn't it because they see that their holy land only has one saint, the Holy Lord? If the lifespan of Patriarch Shinshu could be extended, why would he be afraid of them? However, that was their luxury over the years. And now, they actually saw with their own eyes that the ancestor Shinshu was reborn because of the person with double pupils, and even comprehended the legendary sword of life. This is undoubtedly a great favor for their holy land. Seeing this, Zhao Lei clenched his 5 fingers, his face gradually becoming serious, and patted Nangong Chen's shoulder heavily. Prince, if the divine dynasty needs you in the future, the Holy Land will definitely help you with all its might. This is the most important thing he can do. It is reasonable and logical for him to do so. Everyone present was silent, but everyone looked at Nangong Chen with gratitude in their eyes. Yiling Xuan took a deep breath, put aside his prejudice, and cast a look of admiration. He was convinced and respected the other person as a person of character, not a hypocrite. Nangong Chen nodded slightly, looked at them, and felt a little sad. This trip was just for Gu Mengling and to sign in, but I didn't expect to have such an unexpected gain. The fact that the ancestor Shinshu was able to comprehend the sword intent of life was also a natural result. To put it bluntly, it was just a coincidence. What's more, he had almost emptied out all the 9th-level sword intent in the opponent's sword monument. But even so, should the other party be grateful to me? At this moment, Nangong Chen couldn't help but have a new understanding of this group of dull sword cultivators. That is sincerity. Only by being sincere and wholeheartedly devoted to the Tao can one go a long way, but in the world of cultivating immortals, this is very rare. I appreciate your kindness. The Divine Dynasty is safe now, and I believe it will be safe in the future as well. Nangong Chen's brows were calm, and he spoke softly. If you encounter any difficulties in the future, you can seek help from the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty, or you can simply join our Tianyuan sword sect. Speaking of this, Nangong Chen raised a smile and said in a joking tone. Everyone also understood what Nangong Chen meant and looked at each other. They didn't expect that at this time, the other party was still thinking about them. This person with double pupils is such a good person. They couldn't help but think that they had a very good impression of Nangong Chen. All right, I understand what's going on now. It's time for me to go. The road ahead is long and the mountains are high. Everyone, we'll meet again someday. Nangong Chen said lightly, although his tone was still cold. It was full of humanity. As soon as he finished speaking, the little red dragon on his shoulder flapped its wings and flew away. Flames swept past, and 100-foot-long red dragon appeared in front of the world, and its soaring clouds revealed a strong sense of dominance. In front of him, the white jade chariot emitting a fairy-like aura was very conspicuous. Gu Mengling followed Nangong Chen closely. Just as she was about to board the carriage, she looked at Zhao Lei and the Holy Land where she had lived for more than 10 years with some reluctance. Zhao Lei smiled at her and told her to go with peace of mind. Seeing this, Gu Mengling suppressed her emotions, nodded, turned, and left, leaving only her plain white back. Soon, with a burst of flames rising into the sky, the white jade chariot disappeared into the sky. Zhao Lei watched silently until the other party left completely. Then he withdrew his gaze, and the reluctance in his heart suddenly burst out. Go, that's the place that suits you, he murmured, as if comforting himself. On the other side, the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. At this moment, there was silence in the court, and everyone was suppressing a terrible anger. Even Nangong Chen, who was sitting on the dragon throne, was rubbing his temples and clenching his fists secretly. In the aisle below, for bodies were covered with white cloth. None of them had any scars on their bodies, and their pupils were slightly shrunken, indicating that they had suffered great torture before death. These 4 bodies were found at the border this morning, as if they were placed there intentionally by someone. Your Majesty, the military has verified their identities. They are none other than the soldiers we sent to the Sun Palace. Furthermore, although most of the information on their tokens has been erased, one person's presence remains. Su Ming spoke slowly, with a hint of horror in his eyes. Who is it? Nangong Chen gritted his teeth and said coldly. Fun Dao. After he finished speaking, everyone's pupils suddenly shrank, and then they seemed to understand. Yes, the Sun God Palace has been destroyed, and the only one who has the ability to kill his soldiers is the remnant of the palace, Fun Dao. Fun Dao, it's actually him. Didn't he find a place to hide? He still dared to attack. Is he really not afraid of death? For a time, this news caused a huge uproar, and the ministers were talking about it, and none of them had anger in their eyes. A rat crossing the street who harmed the genius of Xintian realm actually dared to show up again, and was even so arrogant that he killed the people of their Tianyuan Divine Dynasty and dared to leave their corpses at their border. It's simply lawless. After hearing this, Nangong Chen couldn't stop the coldness from erupting from his body, and a terrifying pressure swept through the entire hall like a tide. He was already a saint, and now, with the help of the Emperor, the protection of dragon energy, and the cleansing of spiritual rain on his marrow, he has already stepped half a foot into the ranks of the Saint Kings. The pressure emanating from it was definitely not something that this group of civil and military officials could withstand. After the ministers present felt that breath, shock flashed in their eyes, and then they trembled and dared not raise their heads. So, those rumors today are not false. After thinking about it, Nangong Chen calmed down. Su Ming nodded slightly, and then slowly spoke out the memorial he had recently compiled. That's right. Fun Dao rushed back after knowing that the Divine Palace was destroyed and even humiliated us. He must have had some backing, and someone must have been behind it. Plus, in recent days, more and more people have seen Fun Dao serving a mysterious red-haired man. After sorting through the files from 10,000 years ago, this old minister boldly speculates that the man is the son of the sun, one of the 5 sons of fate-defying gods, the fallen sun's son. After these words were spoken, everyone was stunned for a moment. They had all heard of the 5 sons of defying fate. It was said that they were the 5 most terrifying geniuses in Tianyuan realm 10,000 years ago. They were contaminated with a trace of the origin of the world since they were born. Their talents were so terrifying that they had at least reached the quasi-saint realm in that life, and fighting across borders was no problem for them. At one point, they suppressed the geniuses of the entire Tianyuan domain and made them unable to raise their heads. It was originally thought that the other party would be able to continue to rule, but who would have thought that one day later, the 5 men who defied fate disappear together, becoming an eternal mystery. Some people once said that the talents of those 5 people were too extraordinary, which aroused the jealousy of God and brought punishment from God. Some people also said that the 5 people achieved enlightenment and ascended to the upper realm. There were all sorts of rumors flying around, but people still couldn't find the correct information, and in the end there was no conclusion. Chapter 438, Fun Dao's Appearance, a Naked Conspiracy. There were all kinds of rumors flying around, but no one could find the final whereabouts of the 5 people, and in the end they could only end up in confusion. However, no one expected that the son of fallen sun, one of the 5 sons who defied fate, would actually appear in this world. This also means that the 5 men who defied fate did not encounter any accidents, but instead sealed themselves away and waited for the right time to wake up. This situation is not uncommon in Tianyuan domain, and some ancient geniuses often revive in the Great Era. Now at this juncture, the son of the fallen sun god has awakened and is together with Fun Dao. This has a profound meaning. The purpose is most likely to compete with the geniuses of this session for a place to go to the upper realm in the upcoming Immortal Questioning Conference. Here comes with bad intentions. Wang Xiong sighed and expressed the thoughts of everyone. Obviously, the actions of the fallen sun godson were meant to provoke their divine dynasty. And in their divine dynasty, the only one who was qualified to allow an ancient evildoer to do such a thing was Crown Prince Nangong Chen. Now that the Crown Princess had left, everyone was silent, with some fear in their eyes. This son of the fallen sun god also has a great background. It is said that he was the strongest among the 5 sons who defied fate. He has extremely terrifying talent and practices the ancient golden crow. To be precise, the other party should be considered an orthodox demon from the sun god palace. He is also considered to be the genius who suppressed Tianyuan realm for an entire era. This will be the strongest rival that the prince has ever faced. After a brief silence, someone spoke. Do you know the level of cultivation of the fallen sun godson? Can we send strong men to intercept and kill him in advance? They are not stupid either. Now that the sun god palace has been destroyed, only Fun Dao and the ancient monsters are left. If they can take action to kill them and cut off their way to compete, it will be the best for them, the geniuses of the divine dynasty. After all, the son of the fallen sun god is an obstacle that cannot be underestimated at the Immortal Questioning Conference in a few months. It's difficult. Fun Dao is so high profile. He must have made all the necessary preparations long ago. I wonder where he has already gone to hide. After hearing this, Su Ming rejected it outright, and then continued with a complicated tone. Searching for these 2 people in Tianyuan territory is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Unless they show up on their own initiative, it will be difficult for us to find their trace. After these words were spoken, everyone became embarrassed. Obviously, they didn't know what to do. After all, the enemy is in the dark while they are in the light. Nangong Chen frowned, and his face with thick eyebrows and big eyes was rarely thoughtful. His eyes flashed, and it was obvious that he had a headache. But not long after, an urgent voice was heard outside the hall. Report that Fun Dao has released a message, and the outside world is going crazy. He said that in a month, he will send the crown prince to Qishan to fight the fallen sun god's son. After he finished speaking, everyone's expression changed slightly. At this moment, in the several continents of Tianyuan realm, in countless cities and mansions, in the streets and alleys, the cultivators were discussing the emergence of Fun Dao. TSK. I never thought that after the Sun God Palace was destroyed, Fun Dao still had the courage to come back. It turns out he has helpers. Yes, not only did they dare to show up in the world so brazenly, they also killed people from the Tianyuan divine dynasty, and even tortured those 4 corpses beyond recognition before throwing them to the border of that divine dynasty. He's really brainless. Doesn't he know that the Tianyuan divine dynasty is now the hegemon of the world? I think this Fun Dao is getting old and confused. Not only the people of Tianyuan divine dynasty want to kill him, but even many major forces at present also want to kill him. After all, he has the experience of being a traitor in the past. Everyone spoke up, and when they mentioned Fun Dao, a hint of contempt appeared in their eyes. Obviously, Fun Dao's current image has become so bad that it can't be any worse. After all, he is the only genius in his own domain who has helped the blood god cult to kill people in all these years. But soon, An older monk frowned as if he had thought of something and spoke. Fendao isn't stupid. He's most likely being ordered to do something. Didn't someone see a mysterious young monk surrounded by flames beside him? It is said that Fendao's attitude towards him was respectful, not at all like he treated a disciple of the divine palace. After these words were spoken, everyone present seemed to remember something, and their faces turned strange. Yes, they still don't know who that man is. Some people also said that they had never seen the young man, and his identity was extremely mysterious, which made them very curious. At this moment, a powerful force erupted from the void, and a strong figure walked out, revealing a corner of the robe with the pattern of the sun. Everyone was attracted by this power, looked up, and their pupils suddenly shrank. This person is none other than Fendao. Fendao only glanced at everyone lightly. Then a hint of heat appeared on his face, and he muttered to himself. The birth of Lord Fallen Sun's son is a destiny that cannot be defied. This world is destined to be the glorious home of Lord Fallen Sunday. It is a great honor for you to witness his path to invincibility. Then, Fendao raised a hint of disdain at the corner of his mouth, as if he had thought of something, and glanced down. 1 month from now, on the day that the master comes out of seclusion, at Red Mountain in central Shenzhou, if that person with double pupils wishes to seek revenge, feel free to come. Of course, if the one with double pupils is scared and afraid of you, then he doesn't have to come. As an ancient demon, it's only natural for him to be afraid. After all, if he loses, he'll lose his life, ha-ha. Fendao could no longer suppress the smile on his face, and smiled arrogantly. He seemed to have seen the scene where the man with double pupils was beheaded by the son of the fallen sun. Then, he ignored those angry glances and muttered to himself, his eyes flashing. However, this palace master still hopes that the one with double pupils can come. He is indeed a whetstone that the adults in this world can appreciate. I hope everyone can convey every word of what I said today to that arrogant boy. Before he could finish his words, a flash of light appeared, and it was a spear that pierced through Fendao's body. Fendao, you old dog, how dare you show up? The strong man who came over shouted coldly, his eyes full of murderous intent. Originally, everyone thought that this shot could take Fendao's life, but who would have thought that Fendao just grinned and his body turned into spiritual light and disappeared? Obviously, this is just a clone of Fendao. You don't think I'll be born in my true form, do you? The spear master was stunned, then clenched his 5 fingers tightly, somewhat unwillingly. At the same time, in many cities and many Taoist temples in central Shenzhou, this scene was being played out. Not long after, what Fendao said spread throughout the entire Xintian realm. For a moment, countless people and many forces were extremely shocked. How long had it been since someone dared to blatantly challenge the Tianyuan divine dynasty and those with double pupils? You know, the last person who provoked a person with double pupils in this way had no idea how high the grass on his grave was, without exception. However, when they learned about the fallen sun godson mentioned by Fendao, their expressions suddenly changed. That fallen sun godson is actually one of the 5 sons of fate-defying fate in ancient legends. The ancient freak who suppressed an entire era has finally been born. Oh my god, now I'm going to see something new. I originally thought that the son of the fallen sun god was a nobody, but I didn't expect him to have such a great background. No wonder Fendao is so confident, threatening to use those with double pupils as a whetstone for the son of the fallen sun. Both of them are trying to suppress the top geniuses of an era. It's unclear who is stronger. No, it's hard to say. From what I know, the son of the fallen sun is far more than just suppressing an era. He is the most gifted of the 5 sons of defying fate. People in ancient times once said that he had the potential to become an immortal. Now that you mention it, wouldn't it be obvious that the son of the fallen sun, with his terrifying talent and long cultivation, would have a clear advantage in a clash with that person with double pupils? I never thought that the first ancient freak to appear in this world would be so terrifying. Sure enough, the Golden Age lives up to its reputation. Then the monsters that appear later will be even more shocking. Alas, this is definitely a bad thing for the local geniuses of the 3 states. Everyone sighed, their eyes filled with growing worry. Indeed, those hidden geniuses have not yet appeared, but such a terrifying figure has appeared first. It is hard to imagine how amazing those hidden geniuses will be later. On the other hand, when the major forces learned about this, their reactions varied. What they know is not as limited as what ordinary monks know, but they know some other secrets. According to the ancient records, before the fallen sun godson disappeared, his cultivation had reached the peak of quasi-saint. People in the world say that he is already qualified to become a saint. When they all learned about the cultivation level of the fallen sun godson, they were all shocked. The fallen sun godson is not even 500 years old, but he has already reached the peak of quasi-sainthood? Oh my god, Is this the power of an ancient freak? It's so terrifying. I thought that a person with double pupils breaking through to the level of quasi-saint was already astonishing enough, but I never expected that in ancient times there were monsters who could rival him. If all the evildoers who appear in the future are like this, then how can we, the younger generation of geniuses, compete with him? This is a complete dimensionality reduction attack. In this world, perhaps only the Ice Phoenix Goddess and the one with double pupils have any hope. Many powerful people sighed and accepted the fact that they were so insignificant in the face of the great world. After hearing this, the pupils of the geniuses on the heavenly ranking shrank slightly, and they were stunned for a long time. This fallen sun god's son is actually at the peak of quasi-saint. How can they fight this? Li Qixin and other geniuses who returned from the immortal hideout were not as desperate as the former, but they also felt deeply powerless. Just the son of the fallen sun god was enough to devastate the hearts of all the geniuses in the Tianyuan realm. Some people also believe that even those with double pupils would probably feel powerless in front of those geniuses who are about to be born. After all, although those with double pupils are strong, they are still not good enough in front of these ancient freaks or hidden monsters because they have practiced for too short a time. Thinking of this, the geniuses couldn't help but feel much more relaxed. After all, they were the ones who felt hopeless and powerless in the past. Now that those top figures like those with double pupils could also feel this way, they felt a little better. Chapter 439 is not finished yet. I will make it up later. However, some powerful people and some forces felt it was strange. After all, the son of the fallen sun god had cultivated to the peak of quasi-saint and then fell into a deep sleep. This must have some purpose. He has the qualifications, but hasn't made a breakthrough. Could it be that he's waiting for an opportunity? That's right. It said that if the golden crow's body, the fallen sun god's son, can find the golden crow's origin, it will be able to undergo a further transformation. A companion immortal artifact is buried in the place where the golden crow's origin is located. So, the fallen sun god's son delayed the battle between the two until a month later, most likely for these things. Now that Fendao has completely disappeared, no one has found any trace of him. There's a high probability that he has already found the origin of the golden crow. In a month, the strength of the fallen sun godson will reach an incomparably terrifying level. He might even reach the level of a saint. Oh my god, a saint who is not even 500 years old. This must be the youngest saint in the history of Xiantian domain. Who among the geniuses in this world can compete with him? The bigwigs of these forces all felt a sense of despair and powerlessness. Some people also cursed the shamelessness of the fallen sun godson. Why did a person from a previous era come into the world at this time? Anyone with a discerning eye can see that competition was more intense in the past than it is now, and similarly, resources are also more abundant. But when they arrived in this life, they were not as rich as the former, and the geniuses they produced were not as powerful as those in ancient times. However, what made them even more curious was the reaction of the Tianyuan divine dynasty. You know, the protagonist of this matter was the man with double pupils, and he had nothing to do with them. What was unexpected was that the moment the news came out, the Tianyuan divine dynasty seemed to have dispatched a large number of troops to search the southern part of central Shenzhou. These powerful men also knew it very well, and knew very well that the Tianyuan divine dynasty wanted to act first and report later, so as not to let the son of fallen sun become a stumbling block for the other party's genius. However, Zhong Shenzhou was too vast, with countless caves and temples that stretched as far as the eye could see. In the end, the Tianyuan divine dynasty had no choice but to withdraw. Seeing this, everyone shook their heads. If they can find it, that would be strange. I believe that Fendao has made all the necessary preparations. During this period of time, the other party must have been hiding well. Even in the so-called Qishan 1 month later, the other party will definitely have a backup plan. If I were a person with double pupils, I would send people to surround and suppress the son of the fallen sun within a month. I would never go out alone. Alas, it's not that simple. From what I know, that Red Mountain was once a place of great power. It was restricted by the rules of heaven and earth. Anyone entering the mountain must have a bone age of no more than 1,000 years. So, considering Fendao's actions, this must be a naked conspiracy. After all, we all know the temperament of people with double pupils. He will definitely keep the appointment. It's best for him to stay in the divine dynasty. He is no match for the fallen sun divine son. There's already a huge age difference between them. Yes, in a month, the fallen sun godson will be even stronger. By then, we won't have any chance. Speaking of this, many strong men shook their heads and were very pessimistic that Nangong Chen could defeat the opponent. Chapter 440. Retreat for a month, and then take up the challenge. At the same time, Tianyuan divine dynasty. In August, autumn leaves are dancing in the prince's palace. Ever since Nangong Chen returned to the palace, Nangong Chen rushed over without stopping. Now, the two of them were in the pavilion, seemingly discussing something, with steam rising from the tea tray, creating a peaceful and tranquil atmosphere. Of course, there was a soundproofing formation there, so even if the servants wanted to listen, they were powerless. They could only occasionally show extreme respect and amazement in their eyes when they passed by. Looking at the indifferent young man in snow clothes in front of him, Nangong Chen couldn't help but feel helpless. He held his forehead and said, "It's already this late, and you still have the mood to drink tea? Do you know how powerful the fallen sun godson will be in a month?" In front of him, Nangong Chen's face was calm. He leisurely picked up the teacup and took a sip. This is Tianwu tea. Although its effect is not as amazing as Wudao tea, it is still very scarce in the Xintian realm. Just a bag of tea can be sold at a sky-high price. However, such expensive Tianwu tea can be supplied in unlimited quantities in the prince's mansion. There are even some spiritual fruits that are hard to find in 1,000 years, and they can often be seen in the mansion. The reason for this, apart from the inherent wealth of the divine dynasty, is also inseparable from the monthly sponsorship of Tianbao Pavilion. In layman's terms, it is Lu Daju's protection fee. Thinking of this, Nangong Chen couldn't help but have a glint of admiration in his eyes, thinking that Lu Daju was really sensible and smart. The monthly protection fee alone is hundreds of immortal crystals, which is not a small amount. It is equivalent to tens of billions of spirit stones. No matter which force it is placed in, it is considered a huge expense. In this world, only Tianbao Pavilion can be so luxurious. Of course, he knew that Lu Daju's move was inseparable from the support of the top management of Tianbao Pavilion. Otherwise, even if he was the young master of Tianbao Pavilion, he would inevitably be talked about behind his back if he invested hundreds of immortal crystals in a month. How strong will it be? After wandering around for a while, Nangong Chen finally remembered what the person in front of him said, and responded casually. When Nangong Chen heard this, a gleam of light flashed in his eyes, and he thought to himself that there was hope. The purpose of his coming here today was to persuade his son not to accept the so-called declaration of war. After all, there was a huge age difference between the two, and this was not a fair fight at all. What's more, Fen Dao's previous actions have shown that there must be something fishy behind this. The battle at Qishan in a month will be a naked conspiracy. However, his son seemed a little absent-minded and never took it to heart. Now that he was finally willing to listen, Nangong Chen took a big sip of tea, moistened his throat, and said, "You don't know the origins of the fallen sun godson. He was a monstrous villain from previous eras, one of the 5 sons of defying fate. His strength and aptitude were terrifying, and before he was sealed in the dust, his cultivation had reached the peak of a quasi-saint. The 5 sons who defy fate," Nangong Chen murmured. He had heard these 4 words in Hong Tian's memory and had some understanding of them. It is said that they were the 5 strongest geniuses of that era. They were born from the same origin, as close as brothers, and created a glorious era. Even Hong Tian spoke highly of the 5 of them. These 5 monsters were the best chosen ones by heaven and natural-born cultivators, even in the upper realm. However, there was no news from him afterwards. I didn't expect that he had hidden himself away and survived until now. What is there to fear from a person who did not dare to preach in the old times? Thinking of this, Nangong Chen shook his head, his brows calm, as if he had an invincible belief. Nangong Chen thought he was interested, raised his thick eyebrows, and continued. "If he fights you at the peak of quasi-saint, I still have some confidence in my heart. At least you are not bad. I, your father, still believe in you. But that kid probably doesn't follow martial ethics. If our information is correct, he has already found the origin of the Golden Crow. In a month, he will break through to the saint level. By then, you will not only have to face a saint-level genius, but also his accompanying immortal weapon. What's more, the other party has chosen Red Mountain as the location for your battle. Besides the favorable environment, there are also restrictions imposed by the laws of heaven and earth. Those under 1,000 years old are not allowed to enter. This also means that no one can stop this battle." Nangong Chen nodded slightly and listened quietly, his face still as calm as ever. "Well," Nangong Chen sighed, a hint of worry in his eyes, "I know you have the human emperor's sword. Even if it's the fallen sun saint, you won't be afraid. But you should be aware of the drawbacks of using the human emperor's sword. Last time, it slept for a month without waking up. What about next time? 2 months, 3 months, or 6 months? The human emperor's sword is a double-edged sword. While it has ultimate killing power, it also comes with a price. To be honest, I don't agree with you using it for this battle. I recommend that you use it as a trump card and only use it when absolutely necessary. Speaking of time, you're different from us old guys who can lie down and go into the coffin. You are now an outstanding talent and have made a name for yourself. You have so many followers in the world. You have to fight. You have to fight against the heavens, the earth, and all living things. I used to be foolish and always wanted to push you into the cold room. But the moment you won first place in the immortal treasure, I knew that a true dragon cannot be trapped. So, time is the most important thing to you right now. Nangong Chen rarely showed his true feelings. He stepped forward and patted Nangong Chen on the shoulder. After a moment of silence, he spoke. Do you still want to fight him? If you don't, you won't suffer any loss, and the entire divine dynasty will suppress those rumors for you. And I believe in you, and so does the entire divine dynasty. It won't take long for you to suppress all the evildoers at that time, including the fallen sun, divine sun. After saying that, Nangong Chen remained silent and looked at Nangong Chen solemnly. Nangong Chen's eyes flashed as he thought. Obviously, Nangong Zhan's words were still useful to him. At least he got a lot of information. After a month, will the other party break through to become a saint? In his hand, he also has a magical weapon. It does sound a bit difficult, but so much can be changed in this month. Nangong Chen was silent for a moment, then said, I don't care about rumors or what people think. None of this matters to me, but from the moment he killed someone from my divine dynasty, there was no reason not to fight. Nangong Zhan's pupil shrank when he heard this, and he asked, Then you want to use the human emperor's sword? He didn't expect that even after everything was said, Nangong Chen still wanted to fight. Nangong Chen shook his head, his eyes full of meaning. Who said I was going to use the human emperor's sword? A mere saint. If you give me a month of seclusion, I can kill him. As soon as he finished speaking, the white robe sleeves waved, and the young man's brows were full of vigor and vitality, and his invincible spirit seemed to pierce the sky. Nangong Chen was also shocked by his son's temperament, and remained silent for a long time. He seemed to see his former self, a self that was even more dazzling than before. After a few breaths, he finally reacted, breathing a little faster, and said, Okay, since you are so confident, I won't say any more. For this month, you don't have to worry about anything. Just retreat in the divine dynasty. If you need any resources, the divine dynasty will fully support you. After he finished speaking, Nangong Chen felt a little touched. He didn't expect that the other party would choose to believe in him unconditionally. Suddenly, warmth flashed in his eyes. He nodded slightly and said calmly, Immortal crystals, I want all of them. Nangong Chen staggered, the corners of his mouth twitching, as if he regretted what he had just said. This son of mine really doesn't treat me as a human being. He asked for all the fairy crystals right away. However, thinking that this was related to the outcome of the battle 1 month later, Nangong Chen just complained in his heart for a while, and without thinking too much, he nodded and agreed. There are a total of 56,780 immortal crystals in the national treasury. I'll have someone bring them to you later. Alas, these are all born from dragon veins. I can't bear to use them myself. You are really lucky, Nangong Chen said with some pain. Nangong Chen's eyes lit up. He didn't expect that there were so many immortal crystals in the divine dynasty. He originally thought that there were only tens of thousands of them. After all, the fairy crystals that other forces could use at most were only a few thousand. They were not as rich as Tianyuan Pavilion. Having more than 56,000 was beyond his imagination. At least 85 more immortal orifices in the body can be opened. You know, he himself has only opened 30 immortal orifices at present. If he opens 85 more, it will be enough for him to transform, and his strength will be improved by several levels. What's more, he had enough time in this month to digest the opportunities he had obtained previously. The sword intent of Samsara, the human emperor's Samsara seal, and even the 100 refinements divine scripture, these are all good things. If he doesn't spend some time to comprehend them, no matter how talented he is, they will all be a pile of waste in his hands. Nangong Chen thought silently in his heart, especially the 100 refining divine scripture. He had a premonition that this would be an extremely important thing to him. Nangong Chen, who was standing by, saw that he was silent and knew that he was about to go into seclusion. So he said, Okay, then I won't keep you any longer. Go and have a good retreat this month. After he finished speaking, Nangong Chen disappeared from the spot. He had other things to do, such as building momentum for his son. Since the fallen sun god wanted to use his son as a whetstone, he should be prepared to fall into the abyss. Thinking of this, a cold light flashed in Nangong Zhan's eyes, his black robe swayed, and then he disappeared into the air. Before long, Nangong Chen was the only one left here. He glanced at the sky and said, From now on, I will be in seclusion. No one is allowed to set foot in the prince's mansion. The next moment, a cold voice sounded in the sky, and it was Shura's. Yes. Soon, the news that the person with double pupils had chosen to accept the challenge after a month of seclusion spread throughout the Xintian domain. Everyone was somewhat shocked, even though they had anticipated that the other party would most likely choose to fight. I knew that the one with double pupils would not be afraid of that fallen sun god son. Choosing to fight him a month later, what courage. Yeah, so what if he's a saint? It's not like I haven't killed people with double pupils before. I believe that the one with double pupils will definitely defeat the arrogant son of the fallen sun in a month. That's right, he still wants to treat others as grindstones. Is he worthy of it? For a time, the supporters of the person with double pupils were full of passion and excitement, and they all declared that they would go to the scene to cheer for Nangong Chen in a month. Many geniuses were also like this. They were infected by the courage of the person with double pupils. A month later, they would also come to Qishan to see it. After all, this could be regarded as the peak showdown between the strongest demon of the new era and the strongest demon of ancient times. Who wins or loses is related to the reputation of an era. As people of a new era, they naturally don't want the person with double pupils to lose. At the same time, many major forces also spoke out, and their descendants also announced that they would go to watch the Battle of Qishan in person in a month. Among them, there are the Li family, the Jiang family, the Chu family, several major holy places, etc. This move also pushed the Battle of Qishan a month later to a climax, making it the biggest focused battle in recent times. However, some people are not optimistic about the person with double pupils, believing that he has just broken through to the quasi-saint level and will not make much progress in a short period of time. So he will most likely lose this battle. The one with double pupils made a wrong move. He shouldn't have accepted the challenge. In the end, it was his youthful arrogance that ruined him. Yes, the opponent is not an ordinary saint, but an ancient evildoer who has suppressed the genius of an entire era. I dare not imagine how powerful he will be after breaking through to the saint level. The gap between a saint and a quasi-saint is simply as vast as heaven and earth, let alone between the geniuses. This gap will only continue to widen. Anyone can see that this is a conspiracy targeting those with double pupils. Now, this might really become the whetstone for the birth of the son of the fallen sun. However, it wasn't long before these negative voices seemed to be suppressed by an invisible hand and came to an abrupt end. The other side, in the Qian dojo, a mysterious young man with his upper body naked was bathing in a sea of fire, his red hair dancing and flames dancing in his eyes, like a god of fire. He was just practicing, when a golden crow phantom suddenly appeared behind him, flapping its wings and sweeping across the sky with flames. Its power was so powerful that it shook the world. If someone saw this scene, they would probably be shocked and speechless. Not far away, Fendao was also watching, a flash of fear in his eyes. He sighed. Is this the cultivation method of the ancient evildoers? It's really so terrifying. At this moment, he was completely conquered by the son of the fallen sun god and was full of confidence in him. He even saw the future of the Sun Palace in him. Soon, Fendao was stunned, as if he had received some information, and a playful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Oh, just a few taunts, and the little bastard really took the bait. He didn't expect that Nangong Chen was so brave as to take on this battle without fear of death. Not long after, he told this great news to the son of fallen sun. The fallen sun godson showed disdain on his face and said calmly, "This official is so arrogant, daring to accept this battle. In 1 month, I will make him know the true meaning of despair." He was full of confidence in his own strength and believed that he would not be defeated by the opponent in a month. Chapter 441, I will finish it later. Soon, the news that the person with double pupils had chosen to accept the challenge after a month of seclusion spread throughout the Xintian domain. Everyone was somewhat shocked, even though they had anticipated that the other party would most likely choose to fight. I knew that the one with double pupils would not be afraid of that fallen sun godson. Choosing to fight him a month later, what courage. Yeah, so what if he's a saint? It's not like I haven't killed people with double pupils before. I believe that the one with double pupils will definitely defeat the arrogant son of the fallen sun in a month. That's right, he still wants to treat others as grindstones. Is he worthy of it? For a time, the supporters of the person with double pupils were full of passion and excitement, and they all declared that they would go to the scene to cheer for Nangong Chen in a month. Many geniuses were also like this. They were infected by the courage of the person with double pupils. A month later, they would also come to Qishan to see it. After all, this could be regarded as the peak showdown between the strongest demon of the new era and the strongest demon of ancient times. Who wins and who loses is related to the reputation of an era. As people of a new era, they naturally don't want the person with double pupils to lose. At the same time, many major forces also spoke out, and their descendants also announced that they would go to watch the Battle of Qishan in person in a month. Among them, there are the Li family, the Jiang family, the Chu family, several major holy places, etc. This move also pushed the Battle of Qishan a month later to a climax, making it the biggest focus battle in recent times. However, some people are not optimistic about the person with double pupils, believing that he has just broken through to the quasi-saint level and will not make much progress in a short period of time, so he will most likely lose this battle. The one with double pupils made a wrong move. He shouldn't have accepted the challenge. In the end, it was his youthful arrogance that ruined him. Yes, the opponent is not an ordinary saint, but an ancient evildoer who has suppressed the genius of an entire era. I dare not imagine how powerful he will be after breaking through to the saint level. The gap between a saint and a quasi-saint is simply as vast as heaven and earth, let alone between the geniuses. This gap will only continue to widen. Anyone can see that this is a conspiracy targeting those with double pupils. Now, this might really become the whetstone for the birth of the son of the fallen sun. However, it wasn't long before these negative voices seemed to be suppressed by an invisible hand and came to an abrupt end. The other side, in the Qian dojo, a mysterious young man with his upper body naked was bathing in a sea of fire, his red hair dancing and flames dancing in his eyes, like a god of fire. He was just practicing when a golden crow phantom suddenly appeared behind him, flapping its wings and sweeping across the sky with flames. Its power was so powerful that it shook the world. If someone saw this scene, they would probably be shocked and speechless. Not far away, Fendao was also watching, a flash of fear in his eyes. He sighed. Is this the cultivation method of the ancient evildoers? It's really so terrifying. At this moment, he was completely conquered by the son of the fallen sun god and was full of confidence in him. He even saw the future of the Sun Palace in him. Soon, Fendao was stunned, as if he had received some information, and a playful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Oh, just a few taunts, and the little bastard really took the bait. He didn't expect that Nangong Chen was so brave as to take on this battle without fear of death. Not long after, he told this great news to the son of fallen sun. The fallen sun godson showed disdain on his face and said calmly, "This official is so arrogant, daring to accept this battle. In 1 month, I will make him know the true meaning of despair." He was full of confidence in his own strength and believed that he would not be defeated by the opponent in a month. Chapter 442, Hidden Family. The other side, in the Qian dojo, a mysterious young man with his upper body naked was bathing in a sea of fire, his red hair dancing and flames dancing in his eyes, like a god of fire. He was just practicing when a golden crow phantom suddenly appeared behind him, flapping its wings and sweeping across the sky with flames. Its power was so powerful that it shook the world. If someone saw this scene, they would probably be shocked and speechless. Not far away, Fendao was also watching, a flash of fear in his eyes. He sighed. Is this the cultivation method of the ancient evildoers? It's really so terrifying. At this moment, he was completely conquered by the son of the fallen sun god and was full of confidence in him. He even saw the future of the Sun Palace in him. Soon, Fendao was stunned, as if he had received some information, and a playful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Oh, just a few taunts, and the little bastard really took the bait. He didn't expect that Nangong Chen was so brave as to take on this battle without fear of death. Not long after, he told this great news to the son of fallen sun. The fallen sun godson showed disdain on his face and said calmly, "This official is so arrogant, daring to accept this battle. In 1 month, I will make him know the true meaning of despair." He was full of confidence in his own strength and believed that he would not be defeated by the opponent in a month. What's more, the opponent was just a whetstone for his first battle. Suddenly, the son of fallen sun spoke, and his eyes, like the scorching sun, looked towards the south, where there was fire burning, as if filled with endless fighting spirit. "Do you know who my real opponent is?" Fendao shook his head. He really couldn't imagine who in the Tianyuan realm of this world could fight against the other party. After all, the feeling that the son of fallen sun god brought to him these days was really too terrifying, no matter from which aspect. The fallen sun god's son smiled, very satisfied with his reaction, and then said proudly, "Those who can catch the eye of this god's son are naturally no ordinary people. As for the hidden families, the Jun family and the Z family, I have also fought against the descendants of these two families, and they should not be underestimated. And there are also ancient species in the dragon's nest in the far west." When he said this, a deep fear flashed in his eyes, as if he remembered something. Fendao was shocked. He took a deep breath, and his hair stood on end. He had never expected that there really was a genius in this world that the other party was afraid of. He couldn't imagine how powerful those monsters the other party was talking about were. The water in the Xintian realm is much deeper than he had imagined. Now it seems that the child with double pupils is not that stunning after all, and is not much better. But it doesn't matter. Once I refine my golden crow essence to perfection, these people will be defeated by me. The son of the fallen sun god shook his head, glanced at him, and his tone was filled with unparalleled arrogance. In the southernmost land, across the sea, there's an island full of fairy air, standing on the endless ocean. On that island, there are countless cities in which monks live and rare birds and animals are kept in captivity. It seems that you can also see terrible relic species. In the blue and white sky, there would occasionally be a floating flying boat passing by, filled with people in armor, with cold light flashing in their eyes, grim expressions, and their aura even came to the God King. However, these were only the weakest few among the guards. The strong man leading them made the space tremble with just a wisp of breath. If someone from the three states crossed the ocean to come here and saw the scene before them, they would be so shocked that they would be speechless. The relic beasts that were usually extremely ferocious in the Tianyuan realm were actually being raised like poultry, not to mention the guards. Even the weakest of the patrolmen had reached the level of God King. I simply can't imagine what kind of people live in these cities filled with fairy spirits. Even if they looked at the entire Tianyuan realm, they had never seen a force of this level, with so many powerful people, and even so much wealth. I'm afraid that only the Tianyuan divine dynasty can compete with it. Chapter 443, Jun Huaiyuan. The relic beasts that were usually extremely ferocious in the Tianyuan realm were actually being raised like poultry, not to mention the guards. Even the weakest of the patrolmen had reached the level of God King. I simply can't imagine what kind of people live in these cities filled with fairy spirits. Even if they looked at the entire Tianyuan realm, they had never seen a force of this level, with so many powerful people, and so much wealth. I'm afraid that only the Tianyuan divine dynasty can compete with it. At this moment, a green light flashed across the sky at an extremely fast speed, sweeping across thousands of miles of wind. Laugh! It was a huge green spirit eagle that attacked, its eyes like lightning. On its back were two old men in purple clothes with amazing auras and seemed to be talking about something. Below the city, some monks saw this and bowed to greet him. Obviously, the old man on the Qingling divine eagle has an extremely high status and position in this city. In March, there will be the Immortal Questioning Conference. It's time for Wushuang to go out and gain experience. How are the fairy preparations going? Jun Huaiyuan looked into the distance and spoke softly. There was a deep diagonal scar on his face, which gave him a sharp look. Every move he made exuded the pressure of a superior. Upon hearing this, the elder bowed slightly and said, "Great Elder, everything is ready. We only need the order to set off." Upon hearing this, Jun Huaiyuan nodded slightly, revealing a look of satisfaction. Going north to gain experience has been a tradition of their secluded family since ancient times. Every time the Immortal Questioning Conference opens, they will send the strongest successor of the family to the three states to challenge the disciples of various sects and sweep away the geniuses of the three states. The meaning of this is not only to make their descendants more prestigious in the Questioning Immortals Conference, but also to consolidate the status of their secluded family, the Jun family. After all, it has been too long since he was born, and those ants in the three states may have forgotten who is the master of this continent. Thinking of this, Jun Huaiyuan had a smile on his face, as if every time at this time, suppressing those jumping lice was the moment when he was most satisfied. The so-called lice he mentioned were the forces within the three states. Over the past 1,000 years, the number of forces from the three states that died at his hands could not be counted on the palm of one hand. I don't know if there are any new changes in the power structure of the three states in this world. Of course, he still hoped that there would be changes in the three states. Otherwise, it would be meaningless to bully those people back and forth. After all, training a dog is more interesting if you train a fierce dog. I hope that this time, those three states can bring me some fun. Thinking of this, Jun Huaiyuan spoke slowly, looking towards the other end of the sea, his eyes full of deep meaning. Go tell Wushuang that it's time to come out into the world and let the three states of Xintian domain see what a hidden family's heritage is like. A commanding tone sounded. After hearing this, the old man next to him also bowed tremblingly, as if he had thought of something, responded, and hurried away. This time, unexpectedly, the great elder is accompanying him. The moment he turned his head, the old man's pupils couldn't help but shrink, as if he had been greatly shocked. At the same time, he silently felt sad for the geniuses of the three states. Those people had better not hurt Jun Wushuang, otherwise the entire force might be destroyed by the old man in front of them. You must know that Jun Huaiyuan, the eldest elder of the Jun family, is known as the man-butcher in the three states. His cultivation is so terrifying that countless forces are terrified of him. The reason why the three states' forces were so frightened was because of Jun Huaiyuan's domineering and protective style. Whenever anyone made his descendants dissatisfied or hurt their descendants during the northward trials, he would do so. Jun Huayuan would act decisively to destroy the other party's Taoist school without listening to any explanation from the other party. In one of his lives, just because the heir of a force in Zhong Shenzhou glared at his own heir, Jun Huayuan did not hesitate and directly beat tens of thousands of people from the other force into a bloody mist on the spot. This domineering style of behavior not only frightened the forces of the three states, but also made the Hidden family extremely afraid. It can be said that the main credit for the Hidden family's current high prestige in the three states lies with Jun Huayuan. And now, the other party has come out again and is bound to stir up a bloody storm in those three states. Chapter 444, Invincible Road. You must know that Jun Huayuan, the eldest elder of the Jun family, is known as the man-butcher in the three states. His cultivation is so terrifying that countless forces are terrified of him. The reason why the forces of the three states were frightened was because of Jun Huayuan's domineering style of protecting his own people. Whenever anyone made their descendants dissatisfied or hurt their descendants during the trials in the north, he would do so. Jun Huayuan would act decisively to destroy the other party's Taoist school without listening to any explanation from the other party. In one of his lives, just because the heir of a force in Zhong Shenzhou glared at his own heir, Jun Huayuan did not hesitate and directly beat tens of thousands of people from the other force into a bloody mist on the spot. This domineering style of behavior not only made the forces of the three states fearful of him, but also made the Hidden family extremely afraid. It can be said that the main credit for the Hidden family's current high prestige in the three states lies with Jun Huayuan. And now, the other party has come out again and is bound to stir up a bloody storm in those three states. Your family is in the ancient land. As ripples appeared in the void, a woman's figure appeared, her expression slightly excited. Shuanger, good news. The clan elders have unanimously decided to release you tomorrow and begin your journey north to gain experience. Not far away, a young man in a black dragon robe was sitting cross-legged. His brows were calm, and he seemed to be circulating his chi. The black clothes rustled, and the body was surrounded by an astonishing, mysterious yellow aura. Just a wisp of the aura leaked during cultivation made the void tremble, and there was a sound like thunder exploding. In the sky, there are several astonishing divine images gathered, Kuinpeng flapping its wings, a real dragon soaring into the sky, a giant tripod shaking the sky. They are all the most powerful divine forms among the tyrants of the sky. A few months ago, those gods and figures were nothing but illusions, but now, they were all cultivated and brought to life by the black-robed man in front of him, as if living creatures had descended, bringing a strong sense of oppression to the surrounding area. If the cultivators from the three states saw this scene, they would be shocked. They could not imagine that this was a sign of a genius's cultivation. It was so terrifying. Jun Wushuang's face was calm as he slowly opened his eyes. The extremely blazing dark yellow light passed by, making him look even more mysterious and invincible. When the woman saw this, she was shocked and a look of horror flashed in her eyes. Her cultivation was not weak, and she could be considered a leader among the quasi-saints, but she could feel a strong threat from Jun Wushuang in front of her. She had a premonition that if she fought the other party, she would probably not be able to defeat him in one move. This also means that the other party's cultivation level has probably already reached the level of a saint. Thinking of this, Lu Mei became extremely excited. As Jun Wushuang's biological mother, the more talented the other party was, the more she would benefit and the higher her status in the clan would be. Going north for training? Jun Wushuang frowned slightly, and there seemed to be some dissatisfaction in his tone. He was a little puzzled as to why his clan still wanted him to fight with those ants, even though he had already broken through to the quasi-saint level. There was really no benefit for him. He also couldn't imagine that there was any genius of the same age in the three states who could attract his attention. I'm afraid it's not those geniuses from the three states who don't even have the status of God King at the moment. They are so weak that it makes people laugh. Thinking of this, a hint of deep disdain flashed across Jun Wushuang's brows, but he didn't say anything and nodded slightly to accept it. After all, no matter how unwilling he was, this was the intention of the clan's top leaders, so he had to at least give the other party some face. After seeing this, Lu Mei also quickly said, Shuanger, even though those natives of the three states are insignificant in your eyes, they're your best chance to prove your invincibility. If you can triumph all the way north and cultivate an invincible aura, even if those ancient freaks are born in 3 months, you won't be afraid. Chapter 445, Revenge of the Second Life. After seeing this, Lu Mei also quickly said, Shuanger, even though those natives of the three states are insignificant in your eyes, they're your best chance to prove your invincibility. If you can triumph all the way north and cultivate an invincible aura, even if those ancient freaks are born in 3 months, you won't be afraid. Invincible force. Jun Wushuang's eyes flickered as he murmured. If he could really use fighting to support fighting, cultivate the path to invincibility, and enter the upper realm, why would he need to fear others? Even the geniuses from the upper realms have been defeated by him. What's more, if he could gain the appreciation of that adult, it would be a great opportunity for him. This time I go north for training. I will conquer all the way. No one can defeat me. Jun Wushuang clenched his fingers and spoke with great confidence. Lu Mei smiled with satisfaction. The stronger her son became, the more benefits he would bring to her in the future. Soon, she seemed to have thought of something, and a hint of cruelty appeared in her eyes. Oh, right, I sent someone to find a guy who destroyed your life in Eastern Divine Province. This time, you go to those 3 states and you can deal with him. Who is it? Jun Wushuang's expression suddenly turned cold. An endless chill poured out from his eyes. If the other party hadn't said it, he would have forgotten about it. The destruction of his clone prevented him from perfecting the heaven-repairing technique. Otherwise, he would not have merged with another body so early, wasting a lot of foundation in vain. It can be said that if it weren't for that kid, he would be even more powerful at this moment. He could not let go of the hatred for destroying his way until the other party was dead. It is said that he is the current number 1 genius in the 3 states, the one with double pupils, Nangong Chen. Lu Mei did not dare to delay and spoke quickly. After hearing this, Jun Wushuang frowned slightly. He seemed to have heard the other party's name somewhere before. People with double pupils, people with double pupils. He muttered a few words in his mind, and after a few breaths, there was some realization in his eyes. Oh, he is the one that Tianji Pavilion mentioned, the only monster in Xintian domain with qualifications beyond the 9th rank. No wonder I have some impression of him. You know, he had mentioned this to that adult before. However, according to that adult, the other party's super 9th grade qualification seems to be fake. Thinking of this, the uneasiness in Jun Wushuang's heart completely disappeared, and he shook his head. It turns out to be fake. I thought he was so powerful and the number 1 genius in the 3 states. Now he has fallen to become a liar who deceives the world. It's really funny. However, since the other party has won the 1st place among the geniuses and is still alive today, this also means that the man with double pupils had a high probability of winning the battle with the proud dragon holy body. You're quite capable. Jun Wushuang raised the corner of his mouth slightly, looking superior. Although the proud dragon holy body is not as strong as his Song Tian tyrant body, it is still formidable. If the opponent can defeat it, it means that he has some real skills in his hands. Lu Mei, who was standing by, was a little confused when she saw him like this. Is Shuang'er praising that kid for having some skills? How is that possible? There was some horror in her eyes, and panic welled up in her heart. She always had a premonition that something bad would happen when the other party went out for the trial this time. She didn't know if it was her illusion. In a trance, that arrogant and domineering voice sounded. During this northern trial, I will personally kill that person with double pupils to avenge my second life. Chapter 446, Heir of the Z Family. Lu Mei swallowed secretly and calmed down, with a hint of ruthlessness in her eyes. That's right, with Shuang'er's talent, and with the great Elder Jun Huayan personally leading the expedition. How could any accident happen? Shuang'er, if we kill that brat this time, we must completely eradicate him and destroy the forces behind him, leaving not a single trace of him alive. Lu Mei's tone was a little cold. Jun Wushuang did not answer, but his eyes were deep and filled with extreme arrogance. In his opinion, even if he killed the other party, who in the world would dare to avenge him? Who else would dare to raise a blade towards their hidden lord family? Ridiculous. By the way, what's going on with the Z family? Jun Wushuang seemed to have thought of something, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. In the immortal questioning conference in a few months, the only person who could make him feel a little interested was probably Zi Shui, the heir of the Z family. Thinking of this, a beautiful face seemed to appear in his mind, and a hint of heat appeared in his eyes. Lu Mei secretly took in this scene and shook her head slightly. His son's infatuation with the heir of the Z family has been going on for a long time, and it is almost known to everyone in this secluded family. However, the Z family, also a reclusive family, seemed to be indifferent to this matter. Every time they came to persuade them to form a good marriage, they just brushed it off. I don't know if it was the girl's intention or the entire Z family's intention. Thinking of this, Lu Mei couldn't help but frown, feeling somewhat dissatisfied. If it was the former, the other party was just a substitute, and it was her blessing that he liked her. How could she have a nerve to reject their Jun family? Of course, if it was the latter, she would be even more angry. What was wrong with her son? The Z family was really blinded by greed and didn't know what was good for them. There's also a rumor circulating within the Z family that Zi Shui will be heading to the three states in the next few days to begin her training journey north. Lu Mei hesitated for a moment before speaking. Jun Wushuang seemed calm, but the corners of his mouth curled up secretly. Oh, she's going too. He pretended to be confused, as if he had thought of something, and shook his head with a hint of worry in his eyes. She and I are both hidden geniuses. It would be bad if we bumped into each other while going north for training. I am not a ruthless person, but I have a heart that seeks the truth. He seemed to be in a dilemma. Seeing this, Lu Mei suppressed the contempt in her heart and smiled gently. Shuanger, it's okay. If you're worried about this, Mother will go to the Z family later to discuss it with them, and see if we can invite Zi Shui to go with you. If you two travel together through the three states, you won't bump into each other from behind, and you can take care of each other. After he finished speaking, Jun Wushuang hid the joy in his eyes, but on the surface, he seemed to be still hesitant. After a long time, he bowed and said with some helplessness, Alas, I have no other choice. I'll have to trouble you, Mother, to go to the Z family and express your concern for me. Of course, if Miss Zi Shui refuses, Mother doesn't have to force it. If we meet in the three states in the future, I will show mercy. Lu Mei smiled and praised him. You, even at this age, are still so considerate of others. If Miss Zi Shui knew about your kindness, she would definitely be very touched. Jun Wushuang was very proud and didn't say anything, but he was actually very happy in his heart. Lu Mei glanced at him, smiled, said goodbye to him, and left. Just went out. Silly son. Do you really want to marry that substitute? Lu Mei sneered and flew in another direction, not towards the Z family. Chapter 447. Lonely Zi Shui, the peerless twins of the Earth Cage Nest. At the same time, another ancient hidden family, the Z family. Then Jun Wushuang is about to leave. In a magnificent mansion, a middle-aged man with purple hair sat on top, with an aura as profound as the abyss, and said in a deep voice, To the clan leader, our spies in the Jun family have confirmed that they will be setting off during these days, and even the boats to cross the Tianyuan Sea are ready. Below the stage, an elder of the clan said respectfully, Strange. According to previous rules, wasn't the birth allowed 2 months before the Immortal Questioning Conference? Why is the Jun family so abnormal in this world? Actually wanted to be born early. After the words were spoken, someone present asked in confusion. The purple-haired middle-aged man, sitting on the throne, pondered for a long time before slowly speaking. If I'm not mistaken, the Jun family wants to build momentum for Jun Wushuang and make him invincible. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's faces suddenly changed, and they became extremely fearful. Since ancient times, they and the Jun family have been the overlords of the Xintian domain, but they are extremely low-key among the three states and are not as arrogant and domineering as the other party. Of course, relying on the advantage of having a master in the upper realm, the friction between them and each other over the years can only be considered evenly matched. Now, it seems that this delicate balance is about to be broken, which is not a good thing for their Z family. Clan leader, we must not let them succeed. The Jun family has wicked ambitions. If they really nurture Jun Wushuang to be invincible, they will definitely not let us go once he grows up. There was an older elder from the Z family with an anxious look on his face. Yes, Patriarch, if we let the Jun family succeed, our Z family will be inferior to them in the future in Xintian territory. Everyone started talking, and for a moment, the whole hall was filled with noise. The purple-haired middle-aged man glanced at them, and a tremendous pressure erupted from his body. He said coldly, Quiet. Just because of that young, insignificant member of the Jun family, they were already thrown into disarray. How could this be tolerated if they told others about it? As soon as the words fell, there was a sudden silence. Everyone knelt down tremblingly, not daring to say anything more. The reason is simple. The man on the stage is not only the head of the Z family, but also the strongest person in the Z family at present. His cultivation has reached the terrifying middle stage of the Saint King. What's more, the other party's offspring are also extremely talented and are far superior to the geniuses of the same generation. Even though they were used to seeing powerful geniuses, they didn't dare to say anything at this moment, for fear of incurring the other party's anger. Seeing this, Zi Zhongtian felt much better. He spoke slowly with a stern look on his face. Since the Jun family has no moral principles and wants to take action in advance to build momentum, then we don't have to abide by the alliance. Pass on my order, and let my descendants of the Z family set off today and arrive in Sanzhou in advance to seize the initiative. After he finished speaking, everyone looked at each other, seeming a little embarrassed. To the clan leader, who should we send as the true heir of our Z family? Someone asked doubtfully. What he said made no sense, because in the Z family, apart from the obvious successor Zi Shui, there was also a real monster named Zi Yunsheng, who was the clan leader's biological son. His talent is even not inferior to Jun Wushuang, with ninth-grade qualifications and the body of an ancient king. Similarly, the other party is also an unparalleled monster that they secretly cultivated in this world, with the purpose of getting a share of this golden age where geniuses emerge in large numbers. Who else? Zi Zhongtian glanced at him indifferently, the meaning of which was self-evident. In the Zi family's backyard, on the martial arts training ground. As shouts rang out, the young men of the Zi family practiced their skills hard in front of the wooden stakes, sweating profusely. Most of them were 15 or 16 years old, in the prime of their youth, but their energy and blood were unusually strong, which was completely unlike what you would see in a child who had just entered the Tao. If this happened in the outside world, there would be countless geniuses who could not compare to the children of these secluded families. If one gets closer and senses the astonishing aura from them, they will be shocked to find that even the youngest boy here has reached the Purple Mansion realm and above. Most of them were at the Divine King level, and a few had even taken one step into the Quasi-Saint realm. What a stunning group of talented people these are. If they were to appear in the outside world, they would surely cause a huge uproar. Among this group of young men, there was one who wore a purple crown, had an imposing bearing, and was surrounded by purple light. When his eyes opened and closed, there was an astonishing aura flashing. His aura was so terrifying that just by practicing, a surge of purple energy condensed in the sky, and strange phenomena occurred. Even the boys and girls not far away occasionally looked over, their eyes full of admiration. There is no other reason. This boy is the son of Zi Zhongtian, the recognized evildoer of the Zi family, Zi Yunsheng. In a corner of the martial arts training ground, there also stood a girl with an extraordinary temperament. However, unlike Zi Yunsheng, who was surrounded by many stars, she was the only one by her side from beginning to end. The girl's eyes were firm, and she seemed to be muttering something. She looked at the dummy in front of her and stabbed it with a sword. But who would have thought that this sword strike was not only completely without any rules, but also that no sword intent could be felt, only brute force. With a loud bang, the dummy that she had patched up for who knows how many days and nights was torn to pieces again. The boys and girls present did not seem to be too surprised after seeing this scene. They smiled sarcastically and whispered, "What a waste. She can't even master the most basic Huang grade sword skills. What's the point of her still living in this world? Yeah, is this Huang grade sword technique really that difficult? If you ask me, even those barbarians from the 3 states next door can master it after practicing it 1,000 times. TSK. Seriously, they're not even as good as the barbarians. He's as dumb as a pig, worthy of being from the 3 states. If that person knew about this, he would probably regret his choice. We have a lot of skills, but we don't even have the ability to fight. Fortunately, we hit it well. If the Jun family knew about this, they would laugh at us to death. Although the sounds are small, it is not difficult for people who practice cultivation to hear them. Zi Yunsheng, who was not far away, heard the noise and opened his eyes, glancing over there. When he saw that it was his so-called clan sister again, a hint of contempt and dissatisfaction emerged in the depths of his eyes. What a useless thing he is, bringing shame to their family. He said nothing, shook his head, closed his eyes, and continued practicing. On the other side, Zi Shui was silently collecting the debris on the ground. There was no trace of emotion on her beautiful face. She looked very calm. She had long been accustomed to the ridicule of these people, and had also long been accustomed to the silence and cold eyes of her so-called relatives. She wanted to cry, but couldn't. She didn't know who in the entire Zi family she could talk to. Is my mission in this world to prepare wedding dresses for Princess Ziyuan? After Zi Shui finished cleaning up, a hint of confusion and numbness appeared in her beautiful eyes. In the eyes of outsiders, she is so glamorous and beautiful, with a natural royal body. At such a young age, she has already broken through to the quasi-saint level. She is loved by her clan and has a promising future, but only she herself knows that it's fake. Everything is fake. The so-called imperial body is nothing more than a soul left in her body by Princess Yuan from the upper realm, which allows her cultivation to continue to increase rapidly even if she does not practice. All of this is done so that when one's cultivation reaches a certain level in the future, they can absorb and integrate it into the other person's body as a tonic. The loss of a corner of her soul even made her lose the ability to practice martial arts. This is why after so long, she hasn't even mastered the simplest yellow-grade martial arts. Thinking of this, Zi Shui sighed softly. If possible, she really wanted to throw away the soul of Princess Ziyuan in her body, even if it meant losing everything she had now. Of course, she knew that this was just wishful thinking. Soon, a powerful force rose above the martial arts training ground, and an old woman tore through the void and walked out of it. By order of the clan leader, young Master Zi Yunsheng, as the heir of the Zi family, will immediately depart for Tianhai and begin his journey north to gain experience. Everyone else, including Miss Zixue, must follow us to Sanzhou." The old woman said respectfully to Zi Yunsheng. As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of the young men present were shocked. They had not expected that the experience of going north in this life would come so quickly. What is even more unexpected is that the young master who has concealed his identity for a long time will finally show his sword during this training trip to the north. Thinking of this, they became extremely excited and looked at Zi Yunsheng one after another. Before, their Zi family was criticized by the Jun family because of Zi Shui, and this generation of geniuses was not as strong as them. But now, their true monster is about to be born, young Master Xiansheng, but he is no weaker than that damn Jun Wushuang. After hearing this, Zi Yunsheng couldn't hide the joy in his heart and smiled. Finally, he is finally going to show up. He didn't know how long he had been waiting behind the scenes for this day. He looked at the woman in the corner, her face full of pride and radiance. "Thank you so much for attracting so much attention for me. But now, just let me enjoy everything you deserve." As for the disciples, their faces were filled with excitement when they thought about going to the 3 states. They always want to go to these 3 states to bully those barbarians. I've heard there are countless geniuses in the 3 states. I wonder if their Taoist aspirations will collapse if I go there. Ha. Maybe there's no need for the young master to take action personally. With me and others here, they won't be able to defeat us. If possible, I'd like to find a few more human slaves in the 3 states. I heard the women there are quite beautiful and will be perfect to be maids. Hey, what's the point of that? If you want a maid, you should look for the daughters of the proud daughters of the great families in the 3 states. The queens, goddesses, and saints, all of them, should submit to us. You're still full of ideas. How about this? Let's see who can humiliate the 3 states' geniuses the most this time. I think it's okay. Ha. Just thinking about how it feels to let them be dogs, it's exciting. Zixue looked at this scene and just felt disgusted. She was not sad about her identity being replaced, but was angry that so many scumbags were going to Sanzhou to harm others. What is the difference between the person who calls himself a hermit and the devil? Before she awakened that soul, she was actually from Sanzhou. If she had not been discovered by the elder of the Z family, she might never have come to this disgusting family in her life. She felt powerless and hated herself for not being able to stop all this from happening. In her opinion, the geniuses of the 3 states had no chance of winning against the monsters of the hidden families. This trip to the 3 states was destined to be a one-sided crushing. Thinking of this, Zixue couldn't help but worry about the people in the 3 states, and her brows frowned slightly. Hopefully they can cope with it. The Far West. For some unknown reason, thousands of ferocious beasts have gathered in the cage nest in the past few days. These ferocious beasts in the Far West are notoriously brutal, not to mention being piled together. Even if they are placed together alone, the 2 beasts will fight each other. But the strange thing is that today is extremely abnormal. These ferocious beasts that can cause a bloody storm in the outside world are not only not fighting, but are extremely quiet, as if they are waiting for something. In front of these ferocious beasts, there were 3 ancient relics with terrifying cultivation. They were huge in size, and their pressure was extremely astonishing. They are a golden divine bull, a black demon spider suspended in midair, and a giant viper wrapped around the demon peak. They were actually 3 ancient relics of the saint level. This level of ferocious beasts was more difficult to deal with and more troublesome than ordinary saint beasts. Is a master priest, right? The little demon king and little demon queen appeared today. The 10,000 poison adder spoke in human language. "Wandu, do you doubt the master priest?" Jin Tianmania looked at him with some dissatisfaction. In terms of strength, the most powerful one here is the Golden Sky Barbarian Bull. "Yes, you dare to question the words of the high priest? I'm afraid you don't want to live anymore." The demon spider also spoke, a mature female voice. "How dare I question it? Please don't accuse me. I'm just curious about when our king will appear." The 10,000 poison adder smiled awkwardly and explained quickly. "It should be soon." Seeing this, Jin Tianmanyo's tone became slightly better, and he glanced at him. Upon hearing this, the 10,000 poison viper nodded slightly and looked at the 2 statues on the altar with a burning look in his eyes. These 2 statues, one male and one female, are both in human form, but they have dragon horns and tails, and their eyes are extremely domineering. In ancient times, the Earth Dragon's nest was the legendary cave where the descendants of the Dragon Clan lived. The 2 people in this statue are none other than the monsters left behind by the real Dragon Clan in their cage nest. In that era, these 2 people suppressed all the geniuses of the time and made all human beings breathless. Now, according to the priest's speculation, their king will be resurrected again and born in the dragon's nest today. The golden age is coming. If the other party leads us, there is no need to worry about the prosperity of the demon clan. Thinking of this, the eyes of 10,000 Poison Viper and others were extremely hot, accompanied by 2 long and terrifying dragon roars. All the ferocious beasts present were instinctively frightened, their bodies shaking like sieves, and they were even scared to the point of roaring instinctively. Even the stronger ancient species, after sensing that breath, could not help but prostrate themselves on the ground and kneel, without a trace of resistance in their eyes. They knew that their king, the Real King, would be born in this dragon's nest that had been dormant for who knows how many years. Soon, the dragon's roar disappeared. The ancient species that gave birth to intelligence in the wild could not help but look up. I saw 2 golden figures standing on the demon peak.